This kid trains like a maniac every single day, swinging his sword nonstop. He even forces himself to absorb the most vicious curses just to get stronger. Even in Shrank Monster gets one shot, no second round. But that still isn't enough, he wants revenge. In his past life, he awakened a broken skill that lets him steal other people's abilities, even their curses. So he took every deadly curse into his own body to support the hero, hoping his sacrifice would bring peace. Yeah, good guys don't live long. The so-called heroes treated him like trash and eventually betrayed him. Back in that final battle, high above the sky, the knight Lam Shen rode in on his black warhorse, radiating an overwhelming pressure that crushed everything below. Watching that, someone in the group couldn't help but tremble. Are we seriously beating Lam Shen with this few people? A sword suddenly stabbed into the ground. No way, this can't be happening. Voices screamed out, Segrin, Abella, Mary. The girls rushed over, crowding around their hero. Arthur, everyone get over here now! Kraz stood there, body covered in strange tattoos and wounds, bitterness all over his face. Arthur, you bastard. What the hell are you doing? Arthur looked back coldly, blood on the corner of his lips. I'm ending this, right here, right now. The world's last hope snapped in that moment, leaving nothing but frozen ruins in the snow. Gruss gritted his teeth and roared, are you giving up? After everything we did to get you here? Do you know how many died for this? He exploded in anger. All because you were busy fooling around with those girls. Have you finally lost your mind? A furious scream cut him off. Shut up, Gruss! Arthur has done his best! Segrin Iphania, the third princess of the Empire and genius of the Azure generation, lashed out, calling Kraz useless trash and warning him not to talk back to Arthur. Kraz froze, blood covering his face, rage twisting his expression. Trash? Who are you calling trash after I saved your lives? He pointed straight at them and roared, you wouldn't even be here without my skill! A violent cough shook him, but he forced the words out. In case you forgot, let me remind you. Starting with you, Abela. Abela, the Red Witch of the Magic Tower, stood nervously beside Arthur. Kraz exposed her. You said you'd lose your magic if you lost your voice. Weren't you the one begging me to take that curse? When they need him, they kneel. When they don't, his garbage. Now Kraz is the one carrying that brutal curse for her. And she repaid him by attacking him while he was out getting painkillers. Kraz sneered, back then or now, you've always looked down on others. His eyes shifted to Mary Diana, the so-called strongest spear of the Empire. He scoffed, brain-dead idiot, you charge in, get cursed, then cry for me to take the pain. Mary stood there in silence. Finally, he looked at Sigrun, the one who just called him trash. His voice choked. The man who sacrificed his eyes for you is trash. Memories of the UOV Academy flooded back, when Segrin stabbed at him just because he was from the kingdom of Stalin. He was bullied, beaten senseless, mocked as a useless failure. Kraz endured it all, physical pain, mental torture, only for these traitors to bite him in the end. He accepted every humiliation just to find a way to heal Segrin's eyes. Kraz laughed at his own stupidity. Why? Because they were the Azure generation, the ones meant to save the nation, while he was cast aside for having no combat talent. I cleaned up your mess this whole time. What was it all for? Blood kept dripping from his mouth. He stared at Arthur, the man he once trusted most, and shouted, you're supposed to save the world. Arthur, you're the one meant to lead those idiots. The memories of the early days hit him, when Kraz once knelt before Arthur. He watched Arthur stand at the front of the Azure generation, and swore to follow him to the very end. And now, only despair. Why are you giving up so easily after everything? Every hope I had, you crushed it all. Arthur looked down silently, face cold, body covered in wounds but not a hint of emotion. Then he said it calmly, it's time to tell the truth. This world is finished, so I'll start everything over. Kraz eyes widened, cold sweat running down his twisted face. Start over. What are you even saying? But Arthur stayed terrifyingly calm. This isn't my first apocalypse. My skill is regression. The word stabbed through Kraz. I'll cast memory preservation and return to the past with everything intact. Arthur's gaze swept over Sigrun, Abella, and Mary. With their experience, the new timeline has better odds. I'll restart with these three. Every word crushed Kraz's heart. Kraz clutched his bleeding chest, voice shaking. The four of you, what about me? In Arthur's plan, he didn't even exist. A faint smile curved on Arthur's lips, but his eyes were ice cold. I don't need you. Kraz froze as chains of fate seemed to wrap around him. Arthur smirked. Your Black Veil skill really was useful. Stealing even the most untouchable curse is impressive. He looked at Kraz, collapsing in blood. But regressing with a broken body like yours. What use are you now? Then he said something horrifying. It'll just erase your memories. You can be someone new in the next world. Kraz trembled. So I was just a disposable tool. This bastard never saw me as anything else. Arthur turned away with the girls. Don't worry. I'll make better use of you next world, and the one after that. See you, Kraz? Wait, Kraz screamed in desperation. His knees slammed into the freezing snow. Watching their backs fade away, Kraz realized the truth he always knew. When the Azure generation ignored him, Arthur never once stepped in. He was never a real teammate. Rage exploded inside him. Take me, damn it! He collapsed, breath ragged. The piled-up curses began devouring his body. His trembling hand clawed at the snow. At this rate, he'd die before the world even ended. Death was creeping closer. But suddenly, a wild light ignited in his eyes. No, it won't end like this. Black Veil doesn't just steal curses, it steals skills too. Kraz made his choice. Had become the strongest, the main character himself. Solo dragons, crushed the 4 heavenly kings. Even if he'd never tried stealing Arthur's power before. Dark energy erupted. Kraz activated Black Veil. He refused to die in humiliation. Brilliant light flared around Arthur as he prepared to trigger the time loop and regress. But in that instant, a gigantic shadowy hand with eerie purple eyes burst from the void and grabbed the hero from behind. Kraz, face covered in blood, smiled like a madman. That pitch-black entity was the true form of Black Veil, slowly swallowing the space around Arthur. Seeing this insane persistence, Arthur exhaled exhausted. Kraz, you still won't let go. Deep down, Kraz answered bitterly. Arthur, you've seen countless apocalypses, and every time I lose my value, you throw me away and leave me to die, again and again. Mountains of corpses flashed in Kraz's mind, proof of Arthur's cruelty across countless timelines. How many times did I taste that despair? Now the tables have turned, Kraz said coldly. This time, Arthur, you're the one getting left behind. After betraying him over and over, it was time to pay. Above them, Lam Zishen descended from the sky. Kraz pointed at the traitor and laughed. Yeah, this feels right. Staring at death closing in, he repeated Arthur's own words. Did you say this world is doomed? He locked eyes with Arthur's fear-twisted face and gave a cruel order. If you don't want to die, struggle for once. Instantly, Lam Zishen swung his massive blade. A wave of deadly blue energy crashed down and swallowed Arthur in a world-shattering explosion. He'll be the one who saves the next world. A blinding light pierced through the snowstorm, and Kraz slowly opened his eyes in shock. Life was flowing back. He jolted up with a scream. A chandelier above him, a small trembling hand in front of his face. He stared at the luxurious, familiar room. Isn't this my childhood home? Did I just reincarnate back to being a kid? A system message appeared. Gus Van Heem, age 13, regression complete. He looked at himself. I'm young again. World erosion. The nightmare where another dimension invades and corrupts reality itself. And the worst part, creatures from that world flood the continent. Some of them look human. They're called world invaders. Their arrival spread terror everywhere. People could only run and scream, "Invaders, call the knights!" Amid ruins and chaos, some chose to fight back. They formed an organization to unite the strong, and the war exploded. Those who stood on the front lines were called the AG Generation. Kraz remembered bitterly in me. With a body that could only seal curses, I joined the AG Generation. Teammate and name, punching bag in reality. My body was wrecked by curses until I coughed blood. 13-year-old Kraz blinked, realizing this wasn't a dream. He shot upright, breathing hard. This was his room, no doubt. Just moments ago, he stood in a frozen battlefield. Now summer heat clung to his skin. He was back at the Green Pile estate. Then it hit him. Using Black Veil on Arthur, it actually worked. He stole regression. That's why he returned with all his adult memories intact. Sitting on the bed, Kraz held his head, still stunned. But how did I even steal it? People think Black Veil has no limits. That's wrong. It can only steal something after unlocking its seal. That magical lock is formed based on the value the owner assigns to it. Even a random stone becomes impossible to steal if the owner treasures it enough. The unlock condition could be insane. For a unique skill someone cherishes deeply, the difficulty should be sky high. The greater the value, the harsher the conditions. Kraz frowned. What were you thinking? He clearly activated Black Veil back then, yet he saw no lock at all. No lock meant only one thing. The so-called hero King Arthur actually wanted to abandon his own regression skill. So that's why I could steal it. Thinking back, Arthur sometimes looked completely drained, like he was forcing himself to finish a job. In a world that keeps ending over and over, repeating it alone, would anyone go insane? Playing lone savior every timeline. Yeah, that kind of breaks a man. Maybe regression wasn't a blessing. Maybe it was his curse. That's why he wanted those three to inherit the memories and cut me out. But when I stole the skill with Black Veil, the Arthur I knew lost regression. He was left behind and died under Lam Zishen's meteor rain, which means he's truly gone. Standing in this quiet room of the past, I muttered to myself, I took the very thing you wanted to throw away. You should thank me. I freed you from your curse. Had a bitter smile cross my lips. He always despised me. Treated my suffering under those brutal curses like it was nothing special. Never once cared about the teammate writhing in pain in the dark. Remembering how I collapsed half dead while they turned their backs, my anger boiled. Serves you right, trash, I muttered, cold eyes shining in a child's face. Stepping into the Green Pile hallway, I felt how small this body was. I stopped at the mirror, around 10 years old, short frame, but muscles tight and trained. Proof of endless sword practice just to survive in the Van Helm family. The strongest martial house in the kingdom of Stalin. I trained like hell since childhood. If I'm in Green Pile, that means the 10-year rite just ended. The Van Helm rite where every child reveals their contracted god and granted skill. The stronger the god, the higher your status in the family. The main bloodline gets absolute respect. Except me, no god chose me, no talent from birth. So they kicked me out of the main estate. Sent me to the Green Pile Villa, which is basically a prison for family failures. Standing by the window, I felt conflicted. The most useless Van Helm is the only one who knows the apocalypse is coming. A disaster so massive even the AG generation could stop it. Can I really prevent the end this time? Stop! My small fist clenched tight. This isn't about can or can't. I have to do it. If I was reborn, there's a way to save the world. Because if the world ends, I die too. No more hesitation. The 10-year-old's eyes turned sharp and resolute. Just then, dry footsteps echoed in the corridor. Young master, the voice made Kraz turn sharply. Arius. What is he doing here? Back then he was still alive. Arius was the sole steward of Green Pile Villa. I grabbed the old butler's sleeve. Arius, he bowed calmly. How may I assist you, young master? In my memory, he was the only one who cared for a failure like me. But the truth was far crueler. I stared into his eyes and smiled faintly. That poison my brother gave you to kill me, when were you planning to use it? At the family arena, even elite knights couldn't defeat her, with just a few clean moves. She sent them flying, crushing all resistance. That overwhelming power belonged to a black-haired girl with sharp eyes, completely dominating the field. Charlotte Van Helm stood tall among the fallen, violet blue aura swirling around her. Only 15 years old and not a single knight could even touch her. The title Sacred Sword wasn't for show. Rumor says Charlotte Van Helm is a once-in-a-thousand-years genius. While the crowd kept praising her, Charlotte only glanced down and muttered, "How boring." The entire clan placed their hopes on her, believing this new blood would secure Van Helm's future forever. But behind the applause, Bill O'Keefe Van Helm, Crass' half-brother, watched with killing intent. "It'll wipe out that entire bloodline." Charlotte was dangerous, sure, but the easiest target, the useless failure, Crass. In a dark room, Bill sat across from Alioth and said calmly, "I'll kill him first." He twisted the knife. "You're struggling, aren't you? Because of Crass, your career's stalled." Then he placed a shimmering vial of poison on the table. "One drop in his drink, and your daughter's treatment and all your debts disappear." Silence filled the room. Bill pressed harder. Still hesitating, Alioth trembled. "Young Master Crass, I raised him like my own son." Bill's voice turned cold. "Alioth, will you choose someone else's child over your own daughter?" The old butler stood frozen, face pale with fear. In the previous timeline, Alioth denied any affection, but the truth was crueler. Crass once watched him collapse after eating the poisoned soup himself. "I'm sorry," Alioth whispered with his final breath. He had accepted the assassination order, but at the last second, love beat reason. He couldn't kill the boy he raised, so he drank the poison instead and died right in front of Crass. Back to the present, Crass stared coldly at Alioth. "The poison my brother gave you. When were you planning to use it?" Alioth trembled, sweat dripping. "Poison. I don't know what you." Crass cut him off. "Playing dumb. You were going to kill me for your daughter." "You think I don't know?" Alioth lowered his head, unable to respond. Watching him crumble, Crass thought, "If I push further, I'll corner him again like last time." He sighed faintly. "Whatever, if you want to pretend, go ahead. If I wasn't a failure, you wouldn't have taken that order." Alioth stood there in shock. He expected fear or rage, not this cold maturity. Has young Master Crass changed? Crass led him toward the mansion's grand study. Alioth, standing before a plain wall, Crass ordered, "Cut this wall down." Alioth blinked. "Excuse me." Crass smirked. "You're a Van Helm butler. This should be easy, right?" Unable to refuse, Alioth bowed. "Of course." He took his stand, and unleashed a vial of blue slash bursting with power. The wall split clean open, revealing a hidden dark passage. Crass nodded. "Nice cut. Clean." Alioth was stunned. Even he had no idea this passage existed. A hidden path right here. While the butler was still processing, Crass casually stepped into the dark, even tossing out a calm, "Well done, Alioth." Watching that small figure walk ahead, Alioth broke into cold sweat. Crass felt totally different from yesterday, lighting the way with a night pearl, giving off pure patriarch vibes. They moved deeper until a massive door chained up tight blocked their path. Crass froze as old memories came flooding back. In the previous timeline, everything here was already burned to ashes. But this time, he made it before disaster struck. Staring at the door wrapped in thick magic chains, Crass clenched his jaw with quiet resolve. Alioth stepped forward. "Young Master, allow me to cut them." Crass shut him down instantly. "No, you can't break these." He decided to test himself instead. Dark energy exploded as he shouted, "Skill Black Cloak." A grotesque hand burst from the void, covered in purple eyes and jagged teeth, lunging straight at the chains. With one brutal strike, the iron chains shattered, the sound echoing through the corridor. Crass calmly caught the massive falling lock and muttered, "Good. The skill hasn't weakened." Alioth rushed over to help with the weight. "Young Master, did you form a contract with a god?" Crass realized that at this point in the past he hadn't, so he lied smoothly, "Yes, an unnamed god." Then he added flatly, "As for the library, report it to Father if you wish." Alioth stood there, eyes trembling at how much the young master had changed. Just yesterday, Crass looked like someone who had lost all reason to live. And overnight, after a divine contract, he transformed completely. Alioth was convinced Crass had gained an incredible skill. After all, he carried the blood of the mighty Van Helm clan, the same bloodline as the legendary genius. Maybe not on that level yet, but this Crass was no longer the useless hare from before. Alioth swallowed hard and placed a hand over his chest. He bowed to young master. "At least until you accomplish your goals, I will tell no one." Crass quietly observed the shift in the old butler's attitude. So this was the effect of regression. His different actions were changing Alioth too. But his eyes stayed wary. In the past, Alioth had betrayed him. That image of him collapsing would never fade. He wondered if Arthur had faced the same paradox, which was why he forced him to learn regression. Crass lowered his gaze. If he cured Alioth's daughter, loyalty would follow. More chess pieces on the board. He turned coldly. "Do as you please. The treatment could wait." The secret library mattered more right now. The heavy wooden door slowly creaked open. A blazing red aura poured out, crushing everything with pressure. A massive pillar of light and raging magic flames erupted inside, ready to incinerate any intruder. Crass' eyes widened at the sheer scale and power. He couldn't believe a place like this had once been reduced to ashes. Even after countless regressions, stepping inside still sent chills down his spine. No mistake. That person's secret manual had to be here. Scanning the towering shelves, he finally smirked. Found it. This was the secret library of Lam Tianj Pavilion, where the so-called failed ancestors of the Van Helm clan recorded all their techniques and memories. This wasn't just skill scrolls. It was humanity's masterpiece, housing manuals that reached the highest realms. It used to be open to everyone, but because of one person it became a forbidden secret library. That person was Damaris Van Helm, once labeled the worst failure in Van Helm history. But after being consumed by world erosion, he returned and became the strongest of them all. Crass smiled with ambition as he reached into the blazing light, grabbing the burning manual. "Sorry, I'm late, ancestors. From now on this is mine." Damaris Van Helm, a name that once terrified the entire continent. The greatest failure of the clan, yet the most powerful warrior this land had ever seen. At his peak, he stood like a god of destruction. The strongest fighters united against him, and still couldn't stop his advance. He crushed every defense, flattening even the most complex magic arrays in seconds. The secret behind that monstrous power was extreme blood poison, a lethal toxin fused into his veins. Damaris did something insane. He merged world erosion into his own body and mastered a method to control that evil force. He turned poison into power. Holding the manual, Cross recalled his past life. Half of this book had been burned, leaving Damaris' true ending a mystery. Did Damaris lose his mind, unable to suppress the erosion raging inside him? Cross remembered surviving a curse by using Black Cloak to balance conflicting forces. If the same principle applied, he could use a stolen power to suppress the chaos of extreme blood poison. In the blazing light, phantom serpents and savage beasts clashed violently. Opposing energies collided, then slowly began to submit. Cross focused hard as dark energy and lightning gathered between his palms, forming a sphere of crushing pressure. He smirked. With this method, he could surpass common limits, maybe even rival Damaris. That desire burned in his chest as he called out, "Arius." His voice turned cold. "From today on, no one enters Lamtien Pavilion. That's an order." Arius bowed. "Understood." Since swearing loyalty, the butler had devoted himself fully to Cross. Walking the grand corridor, Arius vowed to repay the young master's mercy and reject young master Barokin's cruel offer. The news hit Barokin like ice water. He roared, shredding papers on his desk, furious that Alioth chose that idiot Cross over him. Staring at newspapers praising the clan's genius, he burned with jealousy, trapped between a prodigy and a failure. He bitterly thought that if not for Cross' bloodline, he and Lilith would already hold their rightful place in the family. Grinding his teeth, Barokin summoned his subordinate. "Go to Lamtiang Pavilion. Find out why that butler changed his mind." But Junze returned with shocking news. "We can enter, sir." Barokin demanded answers, only to hear Arius has sealed the entrance. No one is allowed in, not even the Patriarch. Outside the gate, Arius stood firm with sword in hand, eyes sharp, ready to cut down anyone who stepped forward. Ban even the Patriarch. Barokin was stunned and enraged. Since when was that failure worth this much loyalty? Meanwhile, inside the secret library, Cross meditated as dark purple energy blazed around his sweat-soaked body. He exhaled slowly, satisfied. He had finally reached the first stage of Key Expert. In the power system, there were ranks like Q Disciple, Q Master, and Q Expert. Cross had officially stepped into Q Master, the starting tier of true energy users. The second stage, Q Expert, was the brutal line separating mediocrity from talent. And right now, Cross had only touched the edge of ordinary. Meanwhile, Sackloth, his sister just 2 years older, had already reached Q Master long ago, a true monster-level talent. But even a genius like Sackloth once fell to her knees helplessly before the brutal destruction of the world in the previous timeline. Compared to her, Grass felt like a complete beginner. Could he really save the world at this speed? But he shook off the doubt. No point overthinking. In his past life, curses had blocked his Q completely, but now everything was. Even if he couldn't match Sackloth's talent, Grass believed he could still break through by mastering Damaris' legacy. He would learn the book step by step. "I can get stronger." Cross eyes flashed with confidence as he pictured his future power. He pulled back the dark energy around his body and decided this was enough for now. Soon after, the training room door slowly opened. Alioth entered with a towel, bowing respectfully. "Congratulations, young master, you've reached the early stage of Key Expert." Cross casually took the towel. "Nothing special. More importantly, why are you waiting here?" The butler delivered shocking news. "Your fiancée, Lady Bianca Hardenhatch, has arrived at Lamtian Pavilion." Grass froze. His eyes widened. White Demon Bianca. In his memories, she was a leader-type figure who later became a pawn of those trying to destroy the world. She was also the one who defeated one of the 10 great heavenly lords, earning the feared title White Demon. Right now, she was only the youngest daughter of the Hardenhatch family, but this marriage was purely political. The Van Helm family got rid of a useless failure, while Hardenhatch secured ties with the strongest martial clan in the north. Cross realized it clearly. Both of them were just pawns in their family schemes. But he smiled slightly. "Actually, I was looking for Bianca too. Didn't expect her to come here on her own." Bianca Hardenhatch, youngest daughter of the Northern Overlord family, carried a tragic fate. Her mother was affected by world erosion before she was born, leaving Bianca emotionless since birth. The curse had seeped into her soul, impossible to break by normal magic. With a polluted body, she couldn't even form contracts with gods. She was treated as a cursed child. Born at the cost of her mother's life, she was always kept at a distance by the Hardenhatch family. Cross paused. "Does she hate me?" Then he brushed it off. It didn't matter, as long as she didn't interfere with his plan to steal her curse. That snow curse was exactly what he needed to control extreme blood poison. Seeing Cross still half-dressed, Alioth hesitated. "You shouldn't meet her like this, ill-prepared clothes." "All right." Cross smiled faintly, forgetting he was still just a young boy in appearance. "Bring her in. I'll wait a moment." Outside, Bianca stood quietly, silver hair, snowflake hairpin, emotionless gaze, waiting for the meeting. Months ago, Cross had coldly shouted at her, "Get lost." He looked at her with disgust. "I only care about Van Helm power. Don't pretend to be my fiancée." Then the door slammed shut. Bianca silent. "I didn't even want to come here anyway." She remembered the pressure from the Hardenhatch family, forcing her into political sacrifice for survival. They told her to use her appearance to win over the young master of Van Helm. Even without emotions, she understood what she was to them. Deep down, she decided that if not for politics, she would never deal with someone arrogant, weak, and pathetic like him. And if they met again, he would probably insult her again. Back in reality, Cross stepped into the room and felt a chill remembering how badly he had treated her in the past timeline. Damn. To break the tension, he awkwardly scratched his head. I didn't expect such hot tea, especially for someone like her with sensitive senses. I'll remind the servants. Just leave it there for now. He actively changed his attitude, becoming noticeably softer. Nice weather today. Let's take a walk in the garden. I heard there are flowers that don't even grow in the north. Bianca replied shortly. All right. Cross immediately ordered Arius bring some macadamia pastries to the garden.
Aliath bowed. Yes, young master.
You must have had a long trip, Bianca, Cross said as they walked through the grand hallway. He added with a relaxed smile, since we're engaged, meetings like this are kind of necessary, right? Bianca silently followed behind, thinking, since when do I get talked to like this? Cross suddenly turned back teasingly. You sound more like you're talking to a superior than a fiancé. Her silence made him realize how formal she was. Too formal, like she was still stuck in the past version of him. Bianca felt something was off too. Last time, Cross' eyes were cold like blades. Today, he felt completely different. And the biggest shock, he knew she liked macadamia cookies, something she had never told anyone. Stepping into the garden, Cross stretched and exhaled. Finally peaceful. Bianca hesitated. Are you really Cross? Cross noticed her suspicion and wondered if he had changed too much. Suddenly, a faint but chilling pressure leaked from Cross' body. Bianca flinched, killing intent. Panicking, she immediately bowed. I'm sorry, Lord Cross, I spoke out of turn. Cross panicked internally. He hadn't meant to scare her at all. His memories of this timeline were still fragmented, so he couldn't even remember how badly he had treated her before. But one thing was clear, her expression right now. It was the same face she had when she collapsed in blood in front of the Northern Ice Manor in the past timeline. To fix the situation, Cross scratched his head and casually lied. Well, I recently made a contract with a god, so my personality might changed a bit. Bianca responded mechanically, congratulations, young Master Cross. Seeing an opening, Cross looked straight at her. Then I have a proposal for you. Bianca froze. A proposal? She couldn't believe someone who had gained divine power would say that to her. A dark thought flashed through her mind. Don't tell me a breakup. Cross immediately panicked. Why would you think that? He hesitated, lowering his head slightly. If you don't want this engagement, we can cancel it if you want. Bianca stared at him, conflicted. He's still looking down on himself even with Van Helm blood in him. Why is he like this? Then she looked him straight in the eyes. I will remain your fiancé, Lord Cross. That will not change. Cross froze completely. How long has it been since I heard something so genuine? A strange warmth spread in his chest. He cleared his throat. I see, then let's get to the real matter. Cross' gaze sharpened. Dark purple energy surged from his scarred hand. With my newly awakened power, will you hand over that curse even the best exorcists can't break? Bianca was stunned. You mean that unbreakable curse? You want to take it? Cross nodded. I need it. If you agree, I'll grant you any wish, even destruction. Bianca fell silent, realizing the situation actually favored her emotionless curse. She knew Cross was seen as a failure and likely had conflicts with the main family. Looking at his expression, she quietly analyzed him. Maybe he's just exhausted, so exhausted he wants to erase emotions entirely. She remembered what a psychologist once told her as a child. When people reach their mental limit, they either break down completely or suddenly become like a different person. A dangerous turning point. If someone close to you starts acting like that, stay by their side. Thinking that through, Bianca became certain he was in that fragile state. She suddenly grabbed Cross' rough, scarred hand. She looked at him firmly, almost reassuring. It'll be okay. You can get through this, Cross. You don't need to rely on curses if you learn to control your emotions. Hup, Bianca, there's a misunderstanding here. Cross was confused, but she kept going anyway. From now on, I'll visit you more often. If my father allows it, I might even move closer to you at Lam Tien Pavilion. Cross froze. Wait, why are you saying that? You don't hate me. You don't even want this engagement, right? Bianca held his hand tighter. Even so, I can't ignore someone standing on the edge of a cliff. Cross realized she wasn't denying the engagement was unwanted, but she was the type to commit fully once she decided something. He sighed internally. She's completely misunderstanding this situation. Realizing persuasion wouldn't get the curse immediately, Cross decided to activate his skill in secret. Dark purple energy wrapped around Bianca as he activated it. Skill Black Cloak. A magic circle formed, attempting to unlock and extract her curse. The curse responded, condition for become Bianca's friend. Cross grimaced. A locked condition, seriously. He realized her curse, being born with her, was treated as part of her body and heavily sealed. This was even harder than getting engaged to her. Bianca, emotionless by nature, rarely showed interest in anything. Cross decided to keep her close, both to prevent her from becoming the feared white demon, and to eventually take the snow curse for himself. That makes me happy too. I'm grateful to see my fiancé more often, Cross said, hiding his true thoughts. Bianca nodded slightly. I'll inform my father in return. See you soon? Cross watched her figure fade into the sunset and thought he had about a month to study forbidden techniques. Alright, things are about to get busy. But the next day, the peace shattered at the Green Bay mansion as loud moving noises echoed everywhere. Cross stared blankly at workers carrying huge luggage inside. Good day, Lord Cross. A familiar voice made him jump. Bianca stood there among drifting leaves, calmly announcing, from today, I will be living at the Green Bay mansion. Please take care of me. Cross froze. She's moving in?
Wait, was she serious yesterday?
Why is she back already? Bianca, is she sleeping here too? Cross sighed as he saw her peacefully asleep in his room. If anyone sees this, it's going to look bad. Bianca yawned. She opened her eyes and greeted casually, good morning, Cross. Why are you here? Cross snapped back, that's my question. Time passed, winter covered the estate in silence. Cross trained relentlessly, dark green energy burning around him. He thought quietly, it's already been months since she moved in. He still remembered that first day clearly, Bianca announcing she would live at Lam Tngv Pavilion. He had been shocked. You're moving in already. She had simply replied that her family approved without hesitation. Cross worried. She's only 12 and she left home just like that. Or maybe they never cared where she was anyway. Without emotions, Bianca had no real attachment to her family. Cross reassured himself maybe this actually made things easier if he wanted to befriend her. Their relationship became strangely codependent, like a chick following a mother hen everywhere. Back in the present, Cross continued training under surging energy. It's already winter and the academy entrance exam for La Henel is coming soon. This academy was founded by 4 great kingdoms and an empire to train talents against world erosion, only accepting students aged 15 to 20. Before Cross regressed in time, this place had already shaped the elite of the AG generation. It produced countless high-level fighters with insane advanced skills. Cross gritted his teeth, vowing to steal every skill from those bastards once he enrolls, because he knows their weaknesses better than anyone. Those same guys once treated him like trash in his past life, and now they're gonna pay. Next year, Cross turns 14, which means he only has about a year left to prepare and get stronger. But he quickly realizes his talent is hitting a wall, since these magic books only bring him up to beginner expert key level. To break through this limit, Cross knows he has to take Bianca's Blizzard Covenant as soon as possible and learn extreme blood integration. After leaving the training room, Cross sees Bianca waiting again and asks if she's been waiting outside again today. She calmly replies yes, saying she can't leave him alone. Since summer, she's been following him like a shadow, even when he asked if she would follow him into training room 80. Bianca even innocently asked if that was forbidden. Cross sighs, still hoping she would see him as a friend, but a butler suddenly arrives reporting a letter from the Sacred Star Land. Cross repeats it in surprise. Sacred Star Land. It's an annual formal gathering for young nobles of the Starin Kingdom, where everyone attends to network and build connections while showing off wealth and status. Cross holds the invitation and murmurs as he suddenly remembers it, thanking Arius for reminding him. In the past timeline, his memories of this event were blurry, tied to chaotic scenes involving Arius. But he clearly remembers that bastard Bill O'Keel will be there too, his eyes turning sharp as he decides to go to keep his promise. This time, he'll make sure that guy has no excuse to repeat the tragedy involving the fake butler's daughter. Cross hands the letter back and declares he will attend, and Bianca immediately says she's going too. Walking through the elegant halls, Bianca nervously warns that the nobles at Sacred Star Land will definitely criticize him. Cross glances at her, worried that they might also say things about her. But Bianca firmly insists she will go with him anyway. Cross lets out a small smile. He pats her head and jokes that protecting her fiancé is the duty of a fiancé, then quickly clarifies he just wants her honest opinion, not speaking as her fiancée. Bianca freezes, once again seeing that familiar pitiful gaze, as Cross has been oddly kind to her for months. From asking what she wants for breakfast, to letting her pick books in the study, even staying up all night to watch over her sleep and reassure her. This warmth is something Bianca has never felt in the cold Hardennes family. Watching Cross train with his sword, she realizes she has almost forgotten their terrifying first meeting, and slowly thinks she doesn't hate him anymore. She looks into his eyes and firmly repeats that she will go not as his fiancée, but as herself. Cross is stunned by her sincerity. He only manages to say he understands. The carriage rolls out, leaving the manor under a glowing sunset. As the towering Galaruso comes into view, Cross looks out the window and mutters that this is the place. He's shocked by its massive scale, wondering just how rich these nobles are to rent such a place. Nobles in this world are respected because they fight against world erosion for commoners, but they still live ridiculously lavish lives. Cross watches the parting nobles and wonders if this lazy, extravagant crowd is really the future of Starin. The moment they step into the banquet hall, a loud announcement echoes through the place. Sir Crass Vanham and Lady Bianca Hardennes have arrived. Instantly, toxic whispers spread through the crowd, locking onto both of them. That's Crass, the failed son of House Vanham and the cursed girl from the northern family. What a perfect match. The nobles stare at them with pure contempt. Some even warn each other not to stare too long, afraid Bianca's curse might rub off. Amid the chaos, Cross notices some interesting figures, the future elite who will join the Azur generation. One of them is Balak Hopma, the tiger boy with razor-sharp eyes. Then there's Amelia, the crimson-eyed witch with an eerie presence, and Anik Rizzo, a bow user with insane precision using a wooden bow. These three form the infamous Starin trio, all now staring directly at him. Cross quickly realizes they're watching because of his sister, Sackloth. He recalls how Sackloth once said she wore a red dress that caused nobles to swarm her nonstop. But none of them could beat her in a duel. She even called this place a ridiculous holy temple and swore never to return. Looking around now, Cross is certain she caused a massive incident here. Suddenly, Bianca gently tugs his sleeve to comfort him. Sir Crass, don't mind what they say. Cross freezes a bit, surprised she's worried about him after being insulted herself. He pats her head and smiles lightly. I'm fine. I was just thinking about Sackloth. He then wonders when that guy will show up. And like clockwork, the announcement rings again. Lord Delin Danfolian has arrived. A wildly eccentric noble steps in, standing out from everyone else. He waves excitedly with a bright grin. Hello everyone, this is Delin Danfolian, a top-tier alchemist and guild master, dressed completely unlike any noble. Cross remembers the past life moment Delin staring at his cursed body in shock, amazed by the corruption curse covering him. Delling tilts his head, already analyzing him like a lab specimen. Interesting if I combine this curse type with that one, he mutters excitedly. Then suddenly he drops a ridiculous proposal. Hey, wanna be my test subject? It'll heal you. A blinding light erupts as Delling forcibly activates a healing spell. Cross yells in panic, "Stop it! Are you insane? Get away from me!" That was Delling Danfolian, lord of the famous alchemy tower, and the first man who would later be known as the world's greatest alchemist. Delling walks into the hall confidently, greeting everyone like he owns the place. The reaction splits the crowd. Young ladies admire him, while other nobles mock him as a late attention-seeking weirdo. Cross watches from afar, thinking someone like him would definitely choose this kind of gathering to show off. He turns to Bianca, who is busy eating. "Wait here," she replies obediently while chewing. "Minf okay." Cross walks straight toward Delling, catching the alchemist's attention. Delling stares at him confused. "Who's that kid? I feel like I've seen him somewhere." Then his eyes widen. "Wait, he looks just like Sackcloth." Delling asks if Kraus came to talk or was just drawn by his charm. But his tone suddenly shifts. "Lately you've been digging into information about world erosion, haven't you?" Cross doesn't flinch. He smirks slightly. "If I said yes, would that make you more interested?" Delling grins darkly. "You're an annoying little brat, but you've got my curiosity. Follow me." He leads Cross into a private room. While inspecting various enchanted weapons, he casually asks Cross' age. Hearing his only 13, Delling notes that despite his age, his presence feels completely different. Cross sighs and gets straight to the point. "I don't have much time, so ill cut to the chase." Delling slowly draws his sword and replies coldly, "Go ahead, speak." Then out of nowhere he tosses a blade at Cross. "Catch!" Cross barely catches it in time. In the next second, Delling blitzes forward with inhuman speed. Steel clashes as they instantly exchange blows mid-question. Cross struggles to block the relentless strikes and roars. "What the hell are you doing, Delling Danfolian?" Delling stays calm, saying he just wants to test his Sackcloth's brother. Cross grits his teeth, annoying bastard. Even during the intense fight, Delling casually presses on. "So? You said you had something to discuss." "I'm listening." Cross, still defending, replies, "Oh, that." Their blades grind violently against each other. Delling mocks him. "Aren't you supposed to be a useless failure with no skills?" Cross calmly answers that he trains every day, while quickly calculating whether he should reveal his real technique. Suddenly, Cross makes his move, shifting the flow of battle. He brings up a research topic about neutralizing curses and says he might be able to help Delling. Delling freezes for a moment. "What?" He keeps attacking while demanding how Cross, of all people, knows anything about alchemy. Cross dodges and explains his theory using one curse to counter another, something even Dispel Magic can't achieve. Delling is stunned. He never expected a failure like Cross to understand alchemy at this level, and realizes this could revolutionize his research. Delling stops attacking, his expression turning serious. "I'll help you research this." At that moment, a dark aura erupts around Cross' small frame. He declares confidently that he can steal curses themselves. Delling's eyes widen. He's supposed to be a useless failure, what is this guy? He realizes this might be the perfect opportunity to complete his research. Excited beyond reason, Delling grins and asks what he should do to repay him. "How about I become your boyfriend?" Cross immediately shuts it down. "What the hell are you talking about?" Then he ignores the nonsense and gets straight to business, asking Delling to use his alchemy skills to create a potion that can suppress future curses he absorbs. Cross knows relying only on skill stealing won't be enough to survive this brutal world. Even the Azure generation full of monsters could stop world erosion. Cross understands this better than anyone. He needs every tool available, even medicine. Delling studies Cross carefully, realizing he's not a broken failure, but something far more dangerous. Both Venom siblings are far more unusual than he expected. Cross breaks the silence, asking about Delling's plan to attend the soon-to-be-built Rayhan Academy. Delling turns toward the academy in thought. Cross smirks internally. Perfect, a whole academy full of skills to steal and unrestricted access. Delling, now fully excited, agrees to anything potions research, anything related to curse science. Cross thinks this guy hasn't changed at all in any timeline. Cross suddenly shifts tone and asks if he knows about the color mutation disease, a fatal illness that turns skin dark blue and leads to death. Cross orders him directly make a cure for it. Delling freezes. He reacts strongly, saying even for him, that disease is practically impossible to cure. Cross stays calm because he already knows that in the distant future, Delling himself will complete this cure. He clenches his fist and looks straight at the alchemist. With full confidence, he says, "You can do it." That hits Delling's pride instantly and he grins. "You're poking my ego, huh?" A simple fist bump seals the deal between them. Cross instructs him to contact the Black Tide faction once the potion is done. Delling excitedly agrees, saying he'll deliver it personally. But Cross suddenly pauses, struck by a long-standing doubt. "You like my sister, right?" Delling doesn't even hesitate. "Shout it, I love it!" Cross presses further about Delling's earlier boyfriend joke, and Delling awkwardly explains Cross is too young to understand, then casually admits he likes both genders. Cross is horrified. "Absolutely not." And he bolts out of there in pure panic, while Delling calls after him, "My future lover!" Running back into the banquet hall, Cross realizes what kind of guy he just made a deal with. Then he suddenly freezes. Something ugly is happening nearby. A nobleman is violently grabbing Bianca's arm. She's visibly in pain, trembling. Bianca glares at him helplessly, silently calling out for Cross, wondering where he is. Cross doesn't hesitate for even a second and kicks the man hard in the head. The noble is sent flying and crashes to the floor. He groans in pain, clutching his head. A dark R explodes from Cross, his face turning cold with rage. "You dare touch my fiancé." The noble stammers in fear, completely shaken. Cross looks down at him with pure contempt. "Fine, go." Then, instead of going to meet the second princess, Cross decides he'll meet Anik instead. The noble asks why, but Cross has already seen through everything. He coldly warns that whoever he serves has already corrupted him beyond saving, then tells Bianca to follow him, leaving the man shattered on the floor. A puppet trying to act like his master and harass innocent girls pathetic. Walking through the elegant red carpet corridor, Cross wonders why Bianca refused the princess summons. Based on his past life, he already has a good idea who is behind it, but what confuses him is that Bianca should be too young to understand this political mess. He stops and calls her name. She lowers her head and quietly replies that she simply followed his order to wait. That innocent absolute trust catches Cross off guard. He smiles slightly and gently pats her head as they walk on together. Good job. They approach a large door, and with Anik's help, they enter the room behind it. But the moment the door closes, Anik becomes visibly excited and blocks their path. Cross, I've been curious about you two. Fight me. Cross sighs deeply seriously, fighting at a sacred banquet. Anik provokes him, saying if he already fought Sackcloth, there's no reason to refuse him. Cross recalls the rumors Anik once lasted longer against Sackcloth than even Abrax, a skilled fighter. His instincts are unpredictable, making him extremely dangerous. Cross wants to avoid this fight, but the burning excitement in Anik's eyes makes it clear there's no escaping it. Cross coldly agrees. Fight now. The enemy unleashed dense dark energy, moving in fast to crush Kilasi. The attack came insanely quick, but it still didn't land a scratch. He slipped through it cleanly and tightened his five-fold strike stance. One punch packed with cursed dark energy blasted the guy away instantly. He curled up in pain, clutching his stomach like he got deleted from reality. Kilasi stood firm, silently staring down at the defeated opponent. And Nikisai groaned in frustration, accusing him of being cruel. Kilasi calmly fixed his collar and shot back. You challenged me first. Even wrecked, and Nikisi begged to grab his weapon first. Kilasi smirked and mocked him. Weapon? You can't even stand right now. And Nikisi tried to rise, but his body completely gave out. He collapsed flat on the ground, fully drained of strength. Bayan Ka looked over and asked Kilasi what he actually did to him. Kilasi explained it was the Van Helm family's secret art, the one-inch punch, a technique created by a so-called failure ancestor. A short-range strike that concentrates full damage, even crushing internal organs under the right conditions. He glanced at his own hand, confirming he just used his strongest move. He said the guy wouldn't be getting up anytime soon and motioned Bianca to move on. Under the bright full moon, they stepped out into the courtyard. Kilasi suddenly froze, noticing two strangers already waiting ahead, one of them mocking Black Hood's defeat. Kilasi stayed calm and exposed the trap, pointing out they used the princess as bait to lure him here. BL raised a brow in surprise, asking how he figured it out, questioning the rumors. Kilasi pointed straight at him, saying he was the one spreading those rumors about him being a failure. Dark energy surged from his hand as he warned he would steal their skills if he won. Kilasi stood tall on the balcony, unshaken. The man in front was revealed to be Alex Gleazer. Flashbacks hit him, remembering their time fighting side by side. From academy days all the way to the Azure generation. They had been friends for too long for him not to see through it. But the truth was bitter. Alex only stayed close because Kilasi was useful to him. Memories shifted to that fateful battlefield, ruins everywhere, allies already fallen. Kilasi struggled on a cliff, gasping for breath and calling for help. And above him, Nikisi just watched coldly from a higher ground. Onyx coldly calculated his escape plan, ready to sacrifice Kilasi to protect his position. The betrayal hit Kilasi like a nightmare as he realized everything. Even at death's door, he shouted that Onyx would be exposed for this. But Onyx only smiled, already planning to frame him for everything. He was confident everyone would believe it since Kilasi was already hated. He leaned in and said a fake goodbye, thanking him for being a friend. Then he turned and walked away without looking back, leaving Kilasi behind in total despair. Now, back in the present, Kilasi felt his strength fading on the edge of collapse. Just as he thought it was over, a hand suddenly shot out and grabbed him from the void. Arthur appears like a savior at the last second, asking if he's okay and pulling Kellis out of the abyssal pit. Kellis in the present recalls it all. That rescue was just teamwork, but it was the start of a long chain of tragedies. Later, Anix was kicked out of the Azure generation thanks to Arthur's testimony, but even now he's still the same dangerous guy. Anix smirks and says Kellis somehow resembles her, provoking him on purpose. That line hits a nerve and Kellis snaps, telling him not to talk about her like that. The tension spikes instantly between them. Dark energy from his Black Hood skill erupts around Kellis as he prepares for battle. He calmly states he never backs down from a fight. Anix just watches him coldly, unimpressed. Kellis turns into a shadow blur and strikes, but massive tree roots rise as a defensive wall. He reacts instantly, kicking off the wooden trunk. Then twists midair, grabbing a branch to launch himself forward. Anix looks down arrogantly, controlling massive roots like living weapons. Even with his speed, Kellis gets pressured hard. Thick wooden tendrils finally catch him. He gets flung through the air and crashes right beside Bianca. Kellis lets out an annoyed breath. He mutters that this is seriously annoying. Anix grins as vines coil around like venomous snakes. He boasts about the Earthwood Heaven technique, a clan secret that manipulates plants using aura and regeneration to multiply them endlessly, then mocks Kellis to use a real weapon. Kellis calmly picks up a dry branch from the ground. He asks if that's what Anix wants, then says he'll use his own wood against him. Anix snaps and unleashes a storm of root attacks, but Kellis dodges everything flawlessly, moving like a ghost. Anix is stunned, wondering how a failure has reflexes like this. He even suspects Kellis' awakened mind eye, a genius-level perception ability like Sackcloth. Kellis' eyes glow with a faint purple light. He coldly declares that to him, Anix is just prey, and instantly counters with the branch, forcing Anix back. Furious at being mocked, Anix roars that Kellis should watch his words. He activates the fifth technique, Heaven Earth Colossus. A gigantic wooden titan with a demonic face rises to crush Kellis. Every strike is now lethal, pure killing intent. Anix looks down like a god over an insect. He warns Kellis that things are about to get serious. A girl suddenly rushes in, panicking, shouting for Anix to stop. She knows that attack will erase Kellis completely if it lands. The giant wooden fist slams down with terrifying force. Everything beneath it is about to be flattened. Kellis simply closes his eyes, calm in the face of death. His mind flashes back to a thin secret manual hidden in the Azure Manor library. It was written by an ancestor with no talent at all. He spent his whole life repeating the most basic sword swings until old age, leaving only the simplest techniques behind. But Kellis, through countless near-death moments, finally understood the true meaning hidden in it. Sword becomes the self becomes the sword. Kellis grips the branch, and the moment he believes it is a blade, everything changes. One clean vertical slash splits the massive wooden beast in half. The opponent freezes in pure disbelief. The giant construct shatters into pieces midair. Bianca and everyone watching just stand there, completely stunned. Anix's face turned. Cold sweat runs down as his strongest skill gets destroyed so easily. Kellis walks forward calmly and looks down at the defeated Anix. He drops the dry branch and tells him coldly, "Don't ever act so arrogant again." Kellis stands there, breathing heavily after the clash. Sweat pours down his exhausted face. He realizes he overdid it, thinking he could still conserve strength to steal the skill, but now he can barely move, his body collapsing from exhaustion. Bianca and Darling rush in to help. Darling grabs Kellis, making him groan in pain. Seeing his condition, Darling panics, saying Kellis might die if this continues, while Bianca agrees to let him take over. Darling carefully carries Kellis on his back. Nobles start whispering all around the hall, shocked that the failure actually beat Anix. Darling walks through the crowd, realizing how fast rumors spread as people now look at Kellis differently. He believes once Kellis wakes up, he'll become the center of the entire kingdom. But a strange unease lingers in his mind when he remembers Anix's expression. He mutters that something about this doesn't feel right, like trouble is coming. While carrying Kellis under the moonlight, Darling warns him, "Don't die before our research partnership is done." The scene shifts to brutal training sessions at the manor, Kellis facing giant wooden strikes from all directions. He endures the pain, eyes burning with determination to break past his limits. A week passes since returning from the spirit realm. In the manor training yard, sweat soaks his back as he finally recovers. Kellis reflects that if he had pushed harder, he might become worse than Anix, so stopping when he did was actually correct. He sighs in regret, thinking that if he hadn't passed out, he could have stolen the skill right away. He actually has two methods to steal abilities: direct Black Hood unlocking, or making the opponent doubt their own skill. With Anix, he planned to use the second method, especially after instantly breaking his strongest move. Once doubt spreads, mental defenses collapse, then the regeneration skill will eventually become his. 1 year remains before the academy entrance. Kellis plans to train every single day to surpass all so-called geniuses. Suddenly, the door opens and Butler Alot enters with a serious expression. Billiken has arrived at the Azure Manor. Kellis smirks, knowing Billiken has finally lost patience after being rejected 20 times. He calmly allows him. Bianca approaches and offers him water gently, but she suddenly notices something and frowns, his drenched in sweat and smells strange. Kellis freezes, confused, wondering if this is aura side effect or just his senses still adapted from his past life's harsh world. He no longer even cares what his body looks like. Bianca awkwardly asks if he didn't even bathe before meeting Pillowkins. Kellis clicks his tongue and brushes it off, choosing training over appearance, but tells her to stay away. Bianca pouts and turns away, leaving him amused. He thinks she's getting bold, like a puffed-up penguin trying to act scary. Unable to resist teasing, he chases after her as she runs off, treating her like a little sister he can't help messing with. For a brief moment, everything feels calm. Then memories of his past life suddenly flood back like a ghost. Arthur appears in his mind, cold and commanding, as if questioning him. "Have you already become weak from this peaceful life?" Kellis whispers Arthur's name unconsciously. He admits the bitter truth: Arthur was always the frontline hero who never let his guard down. And then what is he doing now? A mocking voice suddenly comes from behind. Billiken Van Hemp arrives, smirking as he calls out that Kellis is flirting with his fiancée. Kellis casually replies that everyone needs some relaxation. Billiken recalls how Kellis used to be too scared to even look at him, now openly staring back, still doubting the rumors about him defeating Anix. Kellis immediately strikes back verbally, asking if he's so busy yet still has time to visit Azure Manor. Billiken freezes, not even catching the hidden insult at first. Kellis adds another hit: the Raran Academy accepts exams regardless of status, so he should prepare himself too. That line instantly triggers Billiken's pride and rage. He feels deeply insulted, believing the Van Hemp family stands above even empires. As a direct heir, being told to take an exam feels humiliating. He forces a smile and mocks Kellis back, calling him a failure worrying about passing an academy exam. But Kellis simply shrugs it off, completely unfazed. That attitude only makes Billiken more irritated. Finally, Billiken reveals his real purpose in order to deal with the world erosion at Mount Gorilak. Kellis is shocked, pointing out that under 15 members should be forced into such missions. Billiken smirks and says he'll personally act as guardian, leaning in to provoke him, doubting he'd back down after beating Anix. Kellis reads his intent clearly: this is a test and a trap. Without hesitation, he accepts. Bianca appears worried, asking where he's going, but he tells her not to follow as he'll be gone dealing with the erosion incident. Bianca sadly asks if she can't come with him. Billokin scoffs at the idea of a 13-year-old stopping world erosion, insulting Bianca under his breath. Kellis instantly steps in front of her and snaps back that she is his fiancée, then coldly counters Billokin's arrogance with a sharp remark that lands right in his pride. Their eyes lock in a tense standoff, and Billokin grits his teeth before storming off in frustration. Kellis gently pats Bianca's head and praises her. She looks confused, but he says her presence helped more than she realizes. Bianca looks at him anxiously, begging him not to collapse again. Kellis simply replies yeah and turns away without hesitation. World erosion is explained another dimension invading reality, creating monstrous corrupted beasts and warped environments. If it spreads too far, the area will fully transform into another world. At Mount Jirulak, a swamp-like erosion zone appears ranked 3-star level. Kellis stands among Bluermord Knights, calmly asking for updates. A soldier reports they'll start once the zone's master is eliminated. A 3-star zone is normally manageable for mid-tier knight squads. Billokin, an elite expert, is expected to handle it easily. He declares he brought Kellis along just to gain experience as a low-level trainee. Kellis answers casually but internally mocks his patronizing tone. He thinks experience. Who does he think he's talking to? The only reason he came with Billokin is to test a temporary solution for his own rampaging condition. The real goal is a controlled experiment. The battle erupts as erosion beasts are sliced apart, clearing a path into the swamp. Screams echo across the battlefield as soldiers panic under overwhelming monster numbers. Kellis quickly instructs them about a headless, fang-covered creature and warns everyone to coat their bodies in aura, or they'll swell from its bite. A soldier asks if he has experienced world erosion before. Kellis calmly replies he's only 13, so that would be impossible. Billokin grows suspicious, noticing how unnaturally calm he is for a first-timer. Memories flash in Billokin's mind of his own humiliation years ago in this very place. He wonders why this failure is giving instructions like a veteran. Watching Kellis from behind, a disturbing thought begins forming in his mind. He fears that if Kellis surpasses him like Sackcloth, he might become the true failure of House Van Hemp. Kellis suddenly stops and calls out that they're approaching the boss area. Billokin regains composure and mocks him, saying this mission seems easier than his first time, assuming only the boss remains. Kellis immediately warns that this is exactly why they should be more careful. He explains that a 3-star zone sustained by a single boss means its power is far from normal, alarming the knights. Billokin snaps at the soldiers, ordering them not to be shaken by a child's words, and pushes for a quick finish. Kellis watches them rush ahead and thinks they'll understand the truth soon enough. He sharpens his focus, sensing the erosion energy swirling beneath the ground. Thanks to the poison embedded in his body from before regression, his perception is sharper than in the previous timeline. Now he just needs to extract it. His heart pounds as the decisive moment arrives. He drinks the dark potion in one decisive gulp and instantly, a violent surge of pain hits him instantly, his eyes turning bloodshot as veins bulge across his face. Kellis collapses, coughing up a mouthful of blood, shocking everyone around him. A knight rushes to support him, asking if he's okay. He wipes the blood away and lies, saying he just slipped. Billokin watches and kindly suggests he should stop pushing himself, but Kellis refuses. Looking at the blood on his hand, Kellis realizes the erosion energy is acting like a deadly poison tearing his body apart, but he has no other choice but to endure it. This is exactly why he trained his body to withstand extreme toxicity beforehand. Following Beekeep's theory, he begins merging aura with erosion energy, forcing his circulation into a constant loop, imagining it like a river absorbing a storm into itself. The result is brutal. His eyes bleed and his body trembles nonstop. He coughs up blood again. Staring at his stained hands, he thinks a normal person would already be dead. Time to use that technique. He recalls the history of Azure Manor's hidden archives, sealed after Damaris Vanham disappeared. A blind ancestor once discovered that secret library but couldn't read its contents, so it was sealed away forever. To prevent that tragedy from repeating, he left behind a single inheritable technique that doesn't require sight, and Kellis inherited it. Aura erupts around him as a sixth sense awakens, letting him perceive every tiny vibration in the world. The sixth sense is born. Right now his range is only about a fingertip, but even that is enough for him to detect something abnormal right beneath his feet. Kellis opens his eyes wide, a wild smile forming as blood stains his face. He realizes it's not the world that's distorting, but his perception becoming sharper than ever. The erosion is thinning out. This is the sixth sense technique at work, but he knows it's only temporary. If he keeps absorbing erosion energy, he could lose control at any moment. A complete overload, like going mad from overtraining. And at that point, he would still need Bianca's mental anchor to stabilize himself. Imperfect, but useful. He clenches his fist, realizing this is the first time he's reached a higher level of power, but then, a chilling sensation suddenly hits him. Kellis whips around, eyes widening as he senses an overwhelming presence behind him. From the darkness emerges a grotesque creature stitched together from countless human body parts. Its long neck twists unnaturally as its pale face slowly opens, its eyes glowing blood-red. A massive slab of flesh covered in screaming faces writhes in agony. Just looking at it would break a weaker mind. "The boss, it's here!" Someone screams through the darkness. The monster roars, revealing a mouthful of jagged teeth and distorted faces embedded across its body. Billokin freezes completely, his expression twisted in pure fear. Kellis is also shaken by the overwhelming presence of the entity. A system-like message appears identifying it: Singanki Ku Ingen MT, the true ruler of the 3-star erosion zone. A command echoes through the dark battlefield. Everyone, prepare for combat! The knights immediately draw their swords, bracing for impact. Billokin gathers energy, his blade glowing bright blue as flames begin to rise around him. His Ignis skill fully activates, turning him into a blazing warrior with hair like molten fire ready to face the nightmare ahead. Witnesses around were stunned as Luojin unleashed Ignis, a flame that looks beautiful but absolutely annihilates everything in its path. Unlike the cheering crowd, Kilasi just stood there, hatred burning in his eyes as he stared at that flame. He flashes back to a nightmare timeline where Ignis once burned off his arm, and Luojin crushed him underfoot, mocking him like trash. Now he watches Luojin's arrogant back as he walks away with a flaming sword. Kilasi quietly mutters his name, cold and full of killing intent. He remembers in the previous timeline Luojin fell into chaos before the time reset, and now Kilasi is no longer the weak kid he used to bully. Dark purple energy suddenly erupts as the Black Hood skill activates around Kilasi. His hands twist into something grotesque, eyes and mouths opening on his skin as he smirks. Let's see, you still want change, right? Boom! An earthquake hits as a monstrous entity with a twisted face gets choked by purple energy and wreathes in agony. The trainee knights panic as a curse spreads across faces nearby, and the monster sprouts 8 massive arms, crushing everything in sight. Soldiers scream in chaos, some yelling to fight, others begging to run as the battlefield collapses into pure panic. A deafening roar cuts through everything. Luojin, fully engulfed in Ignis, launches forward like a flaming arrow. His blazing sword tears through the thousand-faced demon's grotesque body. Fire trails slice across the dark swamp, lighting up the battlefield. From afar, Kilasi freezes, shocked that Luojin is going after the monster instead of him. His eyes track every reckless move of his so-called brother. Then something strange happens. The monster's countless faces begin leaking a dark fluid. Kilasi mutters in shock, blood tears as black liquid pours endlessly from the masks. Grastam immediately senses danger. If this keeps going, everything will get swallowed by that curse. But Luojin ignores the warning and keeps pushing forward like a madman. He keeps hammering the beast with relentless flame attacks. Suddenly, an overwhelming pressure explodes from the monster, making Luojin flinch. He grits his teeth, deciding he must finish the thousand-faced demon before anything worse happens. Luojin roars in order for all knights to join the attack and bring it down. But the soldiers behind him just stand frozen, their faces swallowed in unnatural darkness. Luojin stammers in shock, completely confused by what he's seeing. A horrifying thought hits him. Don't tell him. This is the curse of the thousand-faced demon, but he hasn't even touched it yet. Before he can react, a massive maw full of fangs looms above him, staring down like a death sentence. The scene suddenly shifts to a dark forest under heavy rain. Kilasi lies collapsed on the wet ground, gasping in pure terror. No, this is bad, I'm gonna die, he mutters. He desperately tries to crawl away, mud dragging his small body down. Behind him, a gigantic purple-black hand reaches out, ready to crush him completely. Through the blinding rain, a familiar figure suddenly appears behind him, speaking coldly. Because you're an idiot. Mocking your little sister, losing your knights, and now running to save yourself. Pathetic. So now you die. Those words crush his mind instantly. Luojin gets slammed by the giant thousand-faced demon hand, screaming in pure desperation. His body and spirit completely break at the same time. The once a proud warrior is now just a wreck in the rain, crawling helplessly through mud like trash. Blood and rain mix on his battered face as he weakly whispers, "Who are you?" Then Kilasi appears calmly in front of him. "Kilasi, you're alive. I've been watching everything from the shadows," he says flatly. He explains he pulled his brother out after the demon attacks swallowed the battlefield. Luojin tries to act tough, but his body is barely working anymore. Kilasi walks closer, offering a hand with a mocking tone. "You sure you don't need help?" "I don't need help from an idiot like you," Luojin snaps back. Even shattered, his pride is still hanging on by a thread as he struggles to stand with his sword. Is the thousand-faced demon still nearby? He asks in panic. Kilasi just shrugs. Who knows? They've been walking for a while, but still can't escape. The erosion zone seems like a sealed space. Luojin drops to his knees, realizing there's no way out. Kilasi suddenly speaks again. "I actually have a secret technique. It was passed down from Salosi." Luojin freezes, shocked that even that cold genius had a hidden legacy. He asks if that technique can really beat the thousand-faced demon. "Yes," Kilasi answers. "Alone, no chance, but together maybe. Dying slowly here or fighting it out, I'd rather gamble on the fight." Kilasi stands in the rain, pushing his broken brother toward a choice. Luojin hesitates, then finally admits it. Fine, Sakalusi was a genius after all. He forces himself up and warns him, "If this fails, we both die." Kilasi smirks as dark purple energy erupts around him. "Relax, I won't fail." He locks onto the approaching demon through the rain. "Are you ready to use Ignis?" Luojin nods weakly. Flames ignite in his hand again. "Then let's..." Kilasi steps out of the cover, eyes closed in focus. A brilliant pure blue aura suddenly explodes outward. It wraps around his body and sword like crystal light. Luojin's heart skips. What is this level of control? Has never felt an aura this pure before. In his mind, he admits he didn't believe the idea of combining Ignis with Saki Luosis technique, but now I see it clearly with my own eyes. He can't understand it why the aura he trained years to control is so effortlessly used by Crust. Veroclean Crust calls out, snapping him back. "Use Ignis D Bilojin Lab now." Luojin refocuses and pours into Crust blade. Two massive energies start syncing together. The sword turns into a blazing missile in the dark. Crust grips it tight. "Any problem?" he asks. Seeing Luojin frozen in shock, Crust adds, "No need to worry. I'll finish it in time. I don't need your support anymore." Luojin goes completely silent. He stares at Krust's eyes and realizes the flame on that sword is even purer and stronger than his own. He admits that this blade can kill the thousand-faced demon. Flashbacks hit him hard, losing his knights, fleeing in humiliation, his own arrogance causing everything. A twisted thought rises: if Krust succeeds, does that mean he's weaker than his useless brother? Krust moves like lightning, slashing the monster in a single decisive strike. A gigantic pillar of fire erupts. Everything is erased in unbearable heat. Lujin freezes, sweat running down his face. The monstrous entity is completely wiped out. The erosion zone collapses. Blue sky and green grass return under bright sunlight. Krust stands calmly. It's done. Lujin's face darkens instead of celebrating. Too easy. He suddenly turns and attacks Krust from behind, screaming in madness. But Krust blocks it instantly. I knew you'd do that. Lujin realizes something terrifying: he can't use Ignis anymore. His power is being sealed by Krust's dark purple energy. Krust smirks. Thanks, Verokin. His aura turns fully black purple. You never change. Everything was part of Krust's plan to unlock the Black Hood skill. The condition was simple but cruel: the target must willingly share Ignis, believe the user surpasses them, and fully break their pride. The moment Krust struck, Ignis fully transferred. Verokin screams as his core power gets ripped away. Krust looks down at him coldly. Verokin. I'm taking everything back. Flashback: childhood Krust trying to connect with his family. Only rejection, insults, and humiliation were ever returned by Verokin. Even when saved, Verokin still chose betrayal. Krust's hope was crushed long ago. Verokin lies broken on the ground, barely breathing. Krust leans down. Hurts, doesn't it? He remembers how Verokin once burned his arm and face in the previous timeline, leaving him in agony just like this. Krust straightens his back and walks away, leaving the defeated figure screaming in the ruins. He smirks bitterly. How ironic, today is such a beautiful day. The Verokin faction was completely wiped out. The news shocks the Van Helm main estate, instantly classified as a level 5 erosion disaster, top-tier threat level. Someone shouts in disbelief, so only that failure survived. The head butler immediately shuts him down coldly. Watch your mouth. Lord Verokin died protecting his younger brother. We honor his sacrifice. A very obvious misunderstanding about who the hero actually is. At the funeral, Krust calmly watches everything unfold. He thinks no one suspects him, thanks to the official story. The mission outcome turned out better than expected due to Verokin's disappearance. Kras is now adapted to the erosion's extreme toxicity. And from stolen Ignis he awakens a new power: black flame, a purple-black fire that erases everything it touches. When it burns through erosion essence itself, it becomes something far more dangerous than expected. No one can even see its true color, so Kras stays completely unbothered. The only issue left is the investigation into the erosion anomaly. Come in. Kras already knows the truth. This is the work of world invaders controlled by an immortal sleeping somewhere beyond reality. If they've started moving, his encounters with their agents are inevitable. Inside, he meets Saphira, a rank 4 investigator from the Erosion Bureau. We've been expecting you. Kras immediately notices a black star mark on her neck. We meet again sooner than expected. He points straight at her and says coldly, hey immortal. I want a deal. I'll erase your mortality. Tell me you're a regressor, aren't you? Saphira's expression suddenly distorts. A twisted smile appears as something else speaks through her. I was looking for a different destination, but fate sent me to the wrong place. Before the regression, under Arthur's order, I tried to steal that immortal's power but failed miserably. Memories flash, her body sealed in cursed chains, the immortal barely surviving, unable to control his own subordinates. Poor, right? Sigrun snaps. Poor. You're the one spreading apocalypse-level erosion zones? He keeps shouting while Saphira nervously tries to explain herself. The argument grows tense even as the bigger conflict seems resolved. Kras from the past bitterly recalls the truth. No matter how many times he regressed, stealing that power was impossible. The condition for Black Hood's immortality skill is absurd, being stronger than an immortal, something impossible at that time. Back in the present, the entity inside Saphira smiles again. Tell me you're a regressor, right? Kras calmly replies, a regressor. What makes you think that? The entity laughs. The moment a child dares propose a deal with me, you already exposed yourself. Only regressors would be foolish enough to do that. Kras coldly confirms it, raising his hand as deep violet energy erupts forward. A grotesque mouth with sharp teeth opens in his palm. With my Black Hood skill, I can even steal immortality. Inside Saphira, the entity goes silent as centuries of loneliness flash through its mind. It admits it spent hundreds of years upgrading erosion zones, just to find someone strong enough to kill it. And now the one being capable of stealing its immortality finally stands before it. It tremblingly asks Krust what he wants in return. Krust answers bluntly, make me stronger. I can only steal power from something I surpass. The entity smiles in satisfaction. Then I'll take you as my disciple. It is willing to sell even its soul just to escape immortality. Never dying has become its curse. A crimson aura explodes. I am Crimson Garden August. I will make you the strongest. A massive divine projection appears, crushing everything with pressure. Kras barely holds himself together under that overwhelming presence alone. He realizes Crimson Garden once rivaled Arthur and commanded terrifying forces. Kras decides this power will help him protect the world, even if it comes from an invader. But a dangerous truth surfaces: Arthur now possesses the regression skill again in this timeline. Meaning Kras can no longer reset time. If the world falls again, everything ends permanently. He only has one chance left. Failure means total annihilation. His hand trembles slightly. Crimson Garden smiles faintly inside Saphira's body. Glad to have a partner, Krim. Kras repeats, confused Krim, then gets smacked instantly. Saphira yells, show respect, call me master. Rubbing his head, Kras walks through the manor hallway. Finally, I can leave. Crimson teases him about not living there anymore. A servant suddenly stops him. Lady Arya requests an audience. Kras figures it's just curiosity about the rumors of his change. Then another shock. The patriarch, returning from the Forbidden Zone, also wants to meet him. Kras freezes. Father wants to see me. He knows his father is a terrifying half-divine existence. Two sudden summons at once. Something definitely feels off. Kras wonders if his father sensed something through the stars. He refuses to stay, thinking of Bianca waiting at home. This isn't a direct order, right? Then I'm leaving. He walks off, ignoring the stunned servant. He'll return when I'm summoned or when he comes for me. Kras thinks this as the carriage leaves the estate. He stretches, finally free from the suffocating mansion. Crimson suddenly appears again. Mind your manners, disciple. Kras frowns at the crow on his shoulder. You're too flashy. Crimson turns jet black. Happy now? I can change colors anytime. See, now I look just like a normal crow or like your dark little soul it mocks. Kras snaps back, annoyed, while Crimson suddenly senses something deeper in him, then goes quiet, hinting at a painful truth tied to its immobile true body. Kilasi realized Atir might be the true regressor, while Ming only borrowed a watered-down version of that skill, and he chose not to explain it to Kali Mu Sen. At sunset, they returned to Qingsong Manor. The crow suddenly reminded Kilasi to treat the white-haired girl inside kindly. Kilasi turned back in confusion. Inside, Bianchi stood in a cute bird hood outfit, clutching a book. Welcome back, Kilasi. Kilasi smirked at Kali Mu Sen. See, I told you I'd come back. Just then, butler Ariati rushed in with a letter from Dai Ling. Kilasi opened it and went speechless, seeing Dai Ling already finished the color change disease cure, and still thinking of you with a bold red kiss mark. The letter was basically a love bomb of gratitude and chaos, leaving him completely drained. He ordered Ariati to treat Dai Ling with extreme caution as he would become a future benefactor. Ariati reported Bianchi nearly tried to ride a carriage to the main estate after hearing about the erosion incident. Kilasi froze, realizing her concern was completely genuine. He suddenly thought he hadn't checked the seal on her in a long time. A surge of dark purple energy exploded from the black hat. A magical lock appeared. Requirement: become friends with Bianchi. Their eyes met, and the system confirmed condition 1 cleared. First lock unlocked. Kilasi stood frozen, staring at the glowing system message in disbelief. Bianchi tilted her head. Is there something on my face? He panicked. No, I just wanted to introduce you to a friend. He held up the crow. This is Krim, giving it a softer name, Kalai. Bianchi hugged the crow. Cream. It's so soft like whipped cream. Kilasi smiled, seeing her like that. So you like animals, huh? That small similarity quietly brought them closer. But the real challenge hit next. Second lock appeared. Become an important person to Bianchi. Kilasi analyzed it like categories: family, friends, lovers, or more. Engagement logic kicked in, but dating a 2-year-old mentally repulsed him. As a reincarnated adult, it felt even more complicated. He seriously couldn't bring himself to court a child. Kali Mu Sen suddenly teased. Looks like she actually likes you. Kilasi froze, completely flustered. Kali Mu Sen broke the silence again, voice turning sharp. He challenged him to a spar. Game over. Training ground. Now, Kilasi agreed without hesitation. On the shattered training field, Kilasi lay defeated, gasping for air. Kali Mu Sen mocked him, pathetic. For a regressor, your talent is garbage. Kilasi admitted it bitterly, while Kali Mu Sen said he only got this far using past experience. True geniuses would surpass him in under 5 years, but raw talent meant nothing here. A crushing red aura erupted, swallowing the space around them. Kali Mu Sen declared he had a unique ability of his own. No talent, then just steal it from others. He promised to drag Kilasi out of the mud and let him steal even from the heavens. Behind the crow, a towering demon projection with red hair and long horns slowly emerged. Kilasi sat on the ground, staring up at the overwhelming entity in front of him. He calmly said, "Of course I will." A few days later at Green Pie Manor, Dai Ling suddenly showed up, grinning and shouting, way too excited as usual. Kilasi frowned, asking when he became Sibian darling in the first place. Dai Ling ignored it and asked if he brought what he requested. He proudly handed over a freshly made potion and asked what Kilasi thought. Kilasi casually replied, "Why ask? You're a genius, obviously." That one line made Dai Ling freeze, completely emotional and flustered. He rushed in and hugged Kilasi, who immediately shouted for him to stop. Dai Ling suddenly changed topic, mentioning Anix had started training again after the Saint Domain incident. Kilasi held his head in frustration. He wondered if even that traitor got inspired by him somehow. Then he brushed it off, saying he didn't care, and told Dai Ling to go home. Kilasi was still juggling too many plans for Venom. Kali Mu Sen suddenly spoke, saying he would use a potion to strengthen his weak body. He also mentioned letting the alchemist guy handle it, teasing Kilasi again. This was a rare, expensive enhancement potion only nobles could access. Kilasi thought back, realizing he once could even dream of it. He suddenly changed his mind and asked Dai Ling for help. Dai Ling blinked, confused, asking why he changed his attitude so fast. Kilasi stared ahead and said he would handle the ingredients somehow. With his reincarnated knowledge, he planned to recreate a legendary potion. Under Kali Mu Sen's instructions, he began listing the ingredients while Dai Ling wrote everything down in shock. Dai Ling couldn't believe how detailed it was and asked where he got it from. Kilasi calmly said it was Venom family secret knowledge. Dai Ling nodded, fully convinced as expected from Venom. But reality hit. Those materials were insanely hard to obtain. Dai Ling listed the hardest ones, saying they were almost extinct in dangerous regions. Kilasi immediately realized Bianca's territory was key for one ingredient. The second ingredient came from near golden dragon nests in the borderlands. Kilasi considered black market options, but the risks were too high. Dai Ling suddenly interrupted, excitedly suggesting a better idea to youth martial tournament prize. Kilasi froze, realizing the Empire might use the tournament against Vanham and that his participation would cause chaos. Dai Ling winked mischievously and pulled out a pink potion, saying everything was already planned and he'd handle it like a genius. Then he shoved it into Kilasi's hand. Kilasi stared at the transparent pink liquid, suspicious, but downed it anyway. Instantly, unbearable pain exploded through his body. When the light faded, he realized he had turned into a slim young girl with long hair.
What the hell is this?
Dai Ling casually explained his insane plan. Anyone can enter the tournament if they hide their identity, so just go as a girl. Kilasi grabbed him in rage, demanding to be changed back. Even Crimson went silent, judging him with those red eyes like, you drank it without checking, really. Kilasi's black hat energy flared violently as his killing intent spiked, staring down Dai Ling for that prank. Dai Ling panicked hard, sweating bullets and begging for forgiveness in full meltdown mode. A few days later, Kilasi trained at the manor under Crimson's strict supervision. Blue aura burst around his blade as he repeatedly drilled attack and defense forms. Crimson pushed him with red energy strikes, forcing real combat reactions. Kilasi kept dodging at high speed, blocking every strike in an instant. The training room shook from the impacts. After a brutal session, Crimson finally stopped. Kilasi collapsed, completely exhausted. Crimson hovered above, evaluating him coldly. It taught him high-level combat reading skills, predicting opponent movements instantly. Crimson said once his body is strengthened with Hydra Potion, his combat sense will fully sink and get even stronger. Time to leave, Crimson declared. Kilasi stood up, put on his cloak, and prepared for the Imperial tournament journey. He held a blue shimmering potion, feeling relieved he brought it along. He remembered Dai Ling assuring him it would perfectly hide his identity. Dai Ling also said it could disguise him as a normal civilian from a nearby kingdom. Kilasi snapped, furious about the earlier gender prank, while Dai Ling just laughed it off. Luckily, it only lasts one day. Back in the present, Kilasi finally left Qingsong Manor to begin his journey. At the gate, Butler Arius had everything prepared, including a broker from the Erosion lands and a merchant for covert travel. Kilasi approved the arrangement, impressed by how smooth the infiltration setup was. Thanks to Arius, leaving the manor without trouble was guaranteed. Arius bowed deeply, aura flaring with loyalty and resolve. He swore absolute protection of the manor, even against the master himself if needed. Arius' absolute loyalty didn't come out of nowhere. It started right after Dai Ling delivered the color change cure. The old butler dropped to his knees, crying uncontrollably, thanking Kilasi for saving his daughter. Kilasi coldly told him, if you're grateful, then live on, and he would ensure the daughter's safety. Spend the rest of your life serving me until I release you. He basically decided in his head, considering it a fair trade. Arius, overwhelmed, swore absolute lifelong loyalty on the spot. Seeing that devotion, Kilasi thought maybe he could finally forget Arius' past life betrayal. He turned to Bianchia, still wearing her hooded robe. He gently thanked her for her help. Before leaving, he told her to enjoy her time at home and rest properly. But Bianchia refused immediately, saying she'd return once she secured Slime, and wait for him at Qingsong Manor. Kilasi smiled, impressed by her determination despite being only 12. He noticed the basket of sandwiches she prepared was probably made for his trip. He thanked her and promised to eat it later. She quietly wished him a safe journey. They said their goodbyes, and he boarded the carriage. The carriage rolled out toward the Empire, guided by Crimson flying above. 5 peaceful days passed as Kilasi trained nonstop inside the carriage. Erosion energy and aura kept swirling around his body as he refined his strength. Crimson asked about his stability, and Kilasi said it was fine thanks to his sixth sense. He still felt annoyed the merchant kept choosing overly safe routes, limiting his chances to absorb more erosion energy. Suddenly, the merchant girl dropped her apple. Crimson instantly became alert. Bandits appeared, surrounding the carriage and trapping the merchant in fear. Their masked leader stepped forward, while the others laughed and mocked their target. The girl was grabbed and dragged down, breaking into desperate tears. Just then, a dark purple flash sliced through the space. Every bandit nearby dropped instantly. Kilasi appeared with a cold, death-like gaze. The bandits froze in shock, wondering who this skinny kid even was. Their leader ordered everyone to attack at once. The group charged, mocking him for having no weapon and no chance. Kilasi calmly smirked, black energy forming into a shadow blade in his hand. You mean this? In an instant, he swung. The entire bandit group was cut down without resistance. His cold eyes locked onto the leader, freezing him in place. The masked boss realized something was wrong. This wasn't a normal kid. He roared and swung his massive axe, aiming to end it in one blow. But Kilasi blocked it head-on with his energy blade, sparks exploding from the impact. Kilasi blocked the strike and instantly countered with a blazing slash. The masked leader panicked, realizing his own technique was being turned against him. A massive burst of flame suddenly engulfed Kilasi's body. The leader froze, recognizing that overwhelming aura. You're Batmung's disciple? Batmung, an insane killer tied to the White Ghost Bianca and the invading faction. He once infiltrated Stalin under orders to massacre civilians, but he was ultimately cut down by Shalusi. Kilasi burned the enemy away in an instant, calmly thinking, so what does this all mean? Because of that victory, royal reports even featured a 16-year-old Vanham noble defeating an invader's pawn. But in the original timeline, this invasion shouldn't have happened yet. Why is this happening so early? Kilasi felt fate shifting faster than expected. He decided he needed the Golden Dragon Potion fast and leave immediately. The journey continued to Ceylon, the white capital of the Aphania Empire, buzzing with the martial tournament. Crowds filled the streets, excited for the opening ceremony and strong competitors. A white-haired girl appeared in the crowd, said Aphania, the 14-year-old fourth princess. Her attendant nervously warned her about her unladylike behavior. Sedley sighed, annoyed at her father's name being mentioned again. Despite her attitude, she was a prodigy who solved complex math at age 7. Ministers once believed she could reshape the empire's future as a potential heir. But Sedley stared at the papers in her hand, worried. She knew that becoming a political target meant death in the imperial power struggle. So she tore the documents and acted wildly, playing the role of an uncontrollable troublemaker to survive. From then on, she fully committed to the rebellious princess act. Over time, even supporters gave up and saw her as unfit for succession. Her attendant Sarah warned her she was overacting for too long. Suddenly, Sedley jumped up and pointed into the crowd. She noticed a black-cloaked figure with a crow on his shoulder. Something about him felt dangerous and strangely important. That guy reeks of a villain. She concluded he was from House Vanham and decided to investigate personally. Despite Sarah's protests, she jumped down instantly and rushed straight toward Kilasi to uncover his identity. Rushing too hard for her goal, Sedley suddenly trips and realizes she's about to slam into the ground. She panics, already expecting face-first impact. But right before she hits the floor, a hand grabs her and pulls her up just in time. Sedley looks up and realizes she just crashed into the black-cloaked guy from earlier, Kilasi, who coldly tells her to watch where she's going. He steadies her, then casually walks off into the crowded hall, leaving Sedley frozen in shock. That brief encounter leaves a deep impression on her, and she wonders if he somehow knows who she is. Meanwhile, Kilasi keeps walking, thinking he got lucky meeting the fourth princess early, and decides to avoid her to protect his secret. He registers under a fake name, Clow, age 14, from the Ajuan region of the empire. After finishing the paperwork, he searches for lodging, but every inn is full. He sighs, realizing everywhere is packed solid. Standing under the night sky, he accepts the fact he might be sleeping outside. Suddenly, an old voice calls out to him, "Hey kid." He looks up and sees a kind-looking elderly woman. She asks if he's here for the martial arts tournament and offers him a place to stay for the night. Kalas smiles politely despite Kilimusen glaring at the suspicious situation. Kilimusen keeps warning him not to trust strangers, but he ignores it, tired of sleeping rough in his past life. The bird grumbles, annoyed at how reckless reincarnators can be. By sunset, they arrive at a cozy wooden house in the capital. The old woman tells him to use the second-floor back room and come down for dinner later, and Kilasai thanks her respectfully. As he heads upstairs, he finally relaxes, only to suddenly stop in shock. Standing right there is Sedley, equally stunned to see him again. Kilasi facepalms at this cursed coincidence while Kilimusen freaks out, calling it a trap and saying he warned him. To avoid being recognized, Kilasi ignores her and quickly heads to his room. Sedley watches him leave and mutters that is definitely a strange one. She follows him anyway, teasing him nonstop, asking why he's ignoring a beautiful girl. Kilasi frowns and coldly replies that she's not his type. He adds that there are far more attractive people in the world than her. Sedley smirks, curious, and asks to exact. Kilasi refuses to answer, saying he has no obligation to explain anything. She keeps following him anyway, which only makes him more irritated. She suddenly invites him to dinner, saying she wants to know him better. He immediately refuses, calling it troublesome. The hallway turns tense as Sedley stops, her aura shifting completely. Her presence changes, becoming sharp and intimidating instead of playful. She warns him that he knows she is a princess, and asks if he really intends to treat her like this. Kilasi becomes cautious and Kilimusen also senses something is off. Sedley smirks, eyes glinting with suspicion as she watches him. She casually asks if he is from Storone. Kilasi stiffens, realizing she might have just exposed his origin from Wanhimu Empire. He coldly shuts it down, pretending not to understand and telling her to stop talking nonsense and go to sleep like a child. Sedley snaps back in rage, yelling who is calling a kid, he's just a boy himself. Sarah walks over and cautiously asks if that kid is really from Storone, and Sedley confirms it without hesitation, explaining Storone people have a distinct accent that can't be faked. Downstairs, Kilasi calmly eats dinner while Sedley keeps studying him, noticing his voice sounds imperial but still has subtle foreign traces. Sarah praises her sharp insight, calling her unmatched in perception. Sedley proudly says ordinary people would miss it, but she remembers every detail she sees, and she realizes something odd. He clearly recognized her identity immediately. Sarah suggests interrogation, but Sedley instantly refuses, excited instead, saying this just got interesting and shall watch him closely, while also bringing up news about her sister. Sarah reports that the third princess, Shigilin, has completely changed after 1 year. A disturbing image flashes in Sedley's mind, Shigilin with dark eyes, a twisted expression, and blood on her lips. Sedley freezes, realizing her sister is no longer the same person she remembers. The tension spikes as she grips the stair railing, fear creeping in, sensing her suspicions might be right. If this continues, the two elder princesses could be in danger, and the imperial palace could turn into a bloodbath. Meanwhile, at the arena, pure slaughter is already unfolding. Brutal clashes shake the battlefield, bodies fall everywhere, and the announcer declares the preliminaries over, only 4 survivors advancing while the crowd is still in shock. Gruss stands in the ruins of the arena, hood up, crimson perched on his shoulder, drawing intense attention as people whisper about the mysterious fighter and his strange bird. Kilasi feels Sedley watching him and thinks she's been tracking him since yesterday, making him increasingly wary of her intelligence. He sighs internally, relieved the preliminaries ended without major issues, but knows she's still a problem. The tournament was a brutal purge, hundreds entered, only 4 made it through, pure survival of the strongest. In a dark palace corridor, Kayla is suddenly blocked by a heavily bandaged fighter covered in scars. The man studies him and mentions the crow on his shoulder, asking who he is, putting Kayla on guard. Then he asks something unexpected if he's a member of the Night Crow organization. That name instantly sharpens Kayla's focus. It's a notorious assassin group tied to Imperial collapse in his past timeline. He quickly analyzes the situation and denies it coldly, saying the man is mistaken. The bandaged fighter immediately backs off, laughing it off and acting friendly, even suggesting they become allies like fellow underworld people. He casually greets him and leaves quickly, saying he's busy. Kayla stands frozen, thinking about the mysterious person behind him, while Crimson warns him that things are getting dangerous. Crimson instantly casts a mental illusion, freezing the bandaged man in place as his eyes go blank in shock. Kayla watches Crimson circle the guy and asks what it just did, and Crimson casually says it's a basic mind control illusion. It even reminds him that it helped only because Kayla has some potential too. Taking advantage of the moment, Kayla interrogates the hypnotized man about the Night Crow organization. The man admits the organization has been nearly wiped out, leaving Kayla stunned. But he adds they're still acting under orders from a new master who dragged them into despair. Kayla immediately asks who that master is. The answer hits hard. Second Prince of the Empire, Afania, an overweight royal who loves eating, and also Shi De Li and Shigi Lin's brother. Kayla processes this, knowing Night Crow used to be a secret imperial surveillance tool controlling nobles like modern-day cameras. A new master shouldn't even exist, meaning someone is leaking forbidden information and manipulating the shadows. He realizes the second prince is likely just a pawn in a larger political setup. If the second prince kills the first prince, his own faction will collapse next. And the biggest beneficiary of the chaos, Shi De Li Afania, that name sends a chill through Kayla's mind. He recalls future knowledge. Shi De Li's true goal is to seize the imperial symbol, the white dragon. To clear the path for Arthur's rise, she even planned to eliminate her own sister, Shi De Li. In the end, Shigi Lin would take her own life, leaving Arthur alone on the throne. And that future would push the empire straight into ruin without her presence. If Shigi Lin ascends, the empire collapses and triggers a catastrophic chain reaction across the world. Kayla's dark energy flares as he decides he must stop it all, destroy the scheme, and even steal Shigi Lin's ability if needed. He turns to Crimson and asks for help, but Crimson warns him not to blindly trust future information, even as it agrees to assist him this time. Kayla smirks slightly and lets Crimson land on his hand. He looks at the unconscious bandaged man and decides he's done his role and walks away. But Crimson has other plans, embedding a black feather into the man's head and turning him into its slave. Under Crimson's control, the man rises like a puppet and begins walking again. Crimson asks what's next, and Kayla says it's time to change identities and infiltrate the main tournament to hunt the real Night Crow. Meanwhile, in a dark, dusty library, a mysterious figure flips through ancient documents in rage. He mutters about the fake Night Crow member called Kayla. The man named Handan Kwang crushes the papers in his hand, furious. A red energy erupts from his decayed body as his hatred grows. He roars that he will make the imposter pay, believing Kayla is pretending to be Night Crow. The main tournament begins, featuring the top 32 fighters, and Kayla in disguise effortlessly dominates a massive opponent, locking his neck and dropping him instantly in front of a stunned crowd. The announcer's voice echoes across the arena, declaring the winner of match 32 Ekimiv. The crowd instantly erupts, chanting his fake name in wild excitement. Crimson casually comments that everyone fought hard, but Kayla's presence made the match way more intense, while Kayla adjusts his mask and thinks it's time to stop hiding if everyone already believes the fake identity. As he leaves the arena, he spots Shi De Li secretly watching him from above. He sighs internally, thinking she still won't stop tailing him despite the warning. After the prelims, Shi De Li blocks his path in the hallway, asking about his overwhelming victory, clearly still suspicious and annoyed at how she keeps following him. She studies him closely, insisting he's definitely not normal, while Kayla coldly brushes her off, and she presses him about his strange gaze toward her. Kayla calmly replies with a cryptic line, saying he just thinks she's been through a lot. That hits a nerve. Shi De Li freezes, visibly shaken like he just read her entire past. He walks past her and warns her one last time to take care of herself, saying tomorrow is the main tournament, then leaves without another word. The door slams shut, leaving Shi De Li in total confusion and mental overload. She can't understand how this stranger knows so much about her, even questioning where he's from and who leaked her information. She asks Sarah if the intelligence network she hired can be trusted, and Sarah promises to double-check everything. Observing from afar, Kayla concludes that Shi De Li staying this involved means she's already sensing parts of Shigi Lin's plan. Shi De Li smiles faintly, muttering that Ikimiv is definitely not ordinary at all. Kayla ignores it, signals Crimson to move, and thinks the real players are about to appear, while wondering if Shi De Li has seen through his disguise. Suddenly, a hoarse voice filled with hatred echoes from the shadows, calling him out for impersonating a Kamiv. A ragged, long-haired man steps out, covered in torn clothes and madness, blocking his path. That familiar killing intent makes Kayla pause as he stares at the bandaged figure. He mutters that he didn't expect this guy to show up so early. The real Akamiv instantly draws his twin blades and charges forward at terrifying speed. He closes in like a berserker, unleashing relentless sword strikes that force Kayla on full defense. Suddenly, he grabs Keela Sai and roars that capturing him will solve everything. A bloodred, bond-like energy erupts from his arm, radiating lethal pressure. He laughs madly, declaring it's over for the kid. A devastating strike comes crashing down toward Keela Sai. In an instant, Keela Sai twists his body and counters. He lands a precise kick straight into his opponent's core. The momentum flips instantly as the attacker is blown back. Crimson's shadow spreads across the battlefield, and Keela Sai stands above him coldly. He declares that the opponent's world invasion technique doesn't work on him. The enemy collapses in shock, completely overwhelmed by the reversal. The defeated man whispers in disbelief, realizing his true identity has been exposed. He panics, wondering how Keela Sai learned his hidden identity. Keela Sai presses him harder, asking about the one whose heart was stolen by Chi Ji Lin, demanding answers. He offers a dangerous deal: he will help reclaim that heart and expose Chi Ji Lin's entire scheme. The shocking truth is revealed: the so-called invader Akadi is actually a summoned being named Erbo Aspenapauchi. A fragile, exhausted girl appears in the memory, clutching a worn bag, revealing she was imprisoned for 1,000 years after losing her heart. Keela Sai looks at her and thinks her fate might be even more cursed than his. As memories from his past life flood back, he recalls that in the previous timeline, Arthur personally brought her in and claimed she would be useful to the team. But because she was labeled an otherworld invader, she was constantly rejected and looked down on by her peers. Even as a legendary summoner, she ended up hiding in a tent doing manual labor just to avoid hostile stares. That isolation is what kept her true identity hidden. She was actually the legendary Akadi. Keela Sai walks away, memories of assassin clans resurfacing, knowing dead targets reveal nothing but summoners can control corpses for intel. That's why all clues about the assassin organization lead straight to Erbo Aspenapauchi. While Akadi was supposedly eliminated at the academy under Arthur's execution order, Crimson comments that Keela Sai is unusually harsh today as he confronts her in a ruined, spiderweb-filled room. Keela Sai replies coldly that she needs pressure to cooperate, grabbing her chin and forcing her to look at him while Erbo Ash cries and asks about the promised heart. Without hesitation, Keela Sai activates his dark technique, shadow chains and purple energy wrapping around her. The energy locks onto the heart that once belonged to her. Seeing the difficulty, he switches tactics instead of brute force. He leans in and makes a deal: if she agrees to give him her heart, he can retrieve it right now. Faced with the only escape, she sobs and agrees. Keela Sai is still not satisfied and demands she say it properly, with real emotion so the heart can resonate. Crimson questions his overly serious method, but he ignores it. He escalates psychological pressure, describing her exhausted life in detail. He promises a future where she can stay in her room, relax, and let undead servants handle everything while she enjoys life. But if she refuses, she'll be forced to serve the royal family forever like a slave with no rest. The fear breaks her completely. Erbo Ash erupts with chaotic spirit energy, screaming that she refuses to live like that again. Her summoner power spirals out of control as she relives 1,000 years of forced labor and suffering. She grabs Keela Sai desperately, begging him to save her. Keela Sai calmly pushes the final condition: only by giving up her heart can she truly be freed. She cries out, saying she can't handle this anymore and just wants freedom. Keela Sai coldly refuses to rush. He places a hand on her head and demands absolute trust. He promises he will return her heart once everything is over, urging her to believe him as she breaks down in tears. Her magic chains begin to shatter under her emotional collapse. She finally screams and agrees to give up her heart. Under emotional collapse and pressure, she fully surrenders it. Keela Sai smirks, satisfied that the plan worked. He declares she is now free. But when she immediately demands her heart back, he reminds her it's a deal: he'll return it after everything is finished. She slumps to the ground crying, while Keela Sai tells her to stop whining and move on to the real topic. He asks what Chi Ji Lin is planning, and whether she knows about the swordswoman Sarah Vedlera assigned to protect the fourth princess. Meanwhile, Sarah Vedlera lies severely injured, her face distorted in shock as she realizes her opponent's overwhelming power. A spear suddenly pierces through her chest from behind. Mali Dianai is the one who struck first with brutal intent. She ambushed Salah, leaving her heavily injured and unable to fight back. Standing over the blood pool, Mali Diana looked down with pure contempt, calling it a noble sacrifice for the empire. Behind her stood a towering, disgusting giant figure. She muttered about Chi Ji Lin's cruel order: use Salah as a tool to assassinate the fourth princess Chi Ji Li. Under the moonlight, Mali Diana drifted into memories of her master Atir. 1 year after her regression, she still whispers to him in her mind, "Atir, are you watching?" Her obsession with Atir keeps eating away at her thoughts. It all goes back to the first Saturday after she returned in time. That was the day Atir promised to meet her at the Peace Monument. She ran there full of hope, heart racing like crazy. But Atir never showed up. Standing there with Abela, she was left in pure despair and confusion. Both Abela and Atir vanished, leaving her alone in the city, still trusting Chi Ji Lin's words that he would return. Clenching her spear, she swore to rebuild her strength before his return. She kept pushing herself, determined not to fail her mission. Turning to the giant, she coldly questioned Ai Li Sai. Ai Li Sai admitted everything from inside that monstrous disguise. Mali Dianai immediately warned her not to act recklessly while Chi Ji Lin was away. The terrifying pressure finally broke Ai Li Sai's disguise, revealing a nervous girl behind it. Shaken to the core, Ai Li Sai quickly backed off carrying a large sack. Watching from behind, Mali Diana smirked, noticing Ai Li Sai hiding something interesting like Keela Ti. Meanwhile, Keela Ti stayed hidden under a cloak, gripping his sword, ready for the final match. His opponent in the finals was Pai Lei, a 14-year-old civilian with a gentle dream of peace. But Pai Lei wasn't ordinary, he was once a legendary AG warrior. Kilati tried to talk him down, sensing something familiar in him. He even suggested joining Lahana Neutral Academy to live a normal life. Yet Kilati already knew Pai Lei had never changed. Pai Lei was still the same kind-hearted friend he remembered. "Let me give you advice," Kilati said calmly. "If your hope is too big, the despair will crush you even harder." The arena erupted instant. Pai Lei dashed in with a brutal opening attack, but it was cleanly blocked. He unleashed 1,000 shadow steps, flooding the field with afterimages as he struck non-stop. Kalasai immediately recognized that sword style. Both of them froze for a split second, realizing something was off. Pai Lei could believe his moves were being completely read. Every strike was dismantled perfectly by Kalasai, as Pai Lei felt a chilling familiarity he could explain. Because Kalasai knew everything about Pai Lei's upbringing, training in the snowy lands, and every technique he had ever developed. Kalasai quietly realized he had been watching Pai Lei for a long time, even knowing him better than himself. Pai Lei roared in despair as none of his attacks could even touch his opponent's clothes. Kalasai gathered deep blue energy into his blade and unleashed a reverse draw sword technique that landed first. That strike forced Pai Lei's hidden potential to wake up inside him. Kalasai wanted him stronger, strong enough to survive even when hope shatters and not get controlled by anyone. Sounds nice, but yeah, he still got knocked out by his own friend. Painful lesson. The announcer declared Kalasai the winner of the Chinese final as the crowd erupted. Pai Lei weakly whispered a farewell, wondering if they would meet again. Kalasai suddenly remembered Pai Lei's old promise to protect the world and thank him. For the first time across both lives, he actually heard someone thank him. "See you at the academy," Kalasai said as Pai Lei collapsed. Pai Lei accepted it with determination, promising to meet again at Lahana Academy. Meanwhile, Prince Sifong Afandie celebrated, thinking his fake victory was perfect. He believed Kalasai was just a loyal killing tool under his control. Iwei Li Sai bowed nervously, "Yes, your highness." But his arrogance was about to get crushed instantly. Heavy footsteps echoed as armed knights stormed in. The palace guards tried to resist, but the pressure was overwhelming. A woman stepped forward through the killing intent. She declared Shifong Afandi under arrest for plotting against Princess Shi Li Afania. The prince denied everything, but a signed order was found at the assassin hideout. Panic spread as the evidence pinned him down completely. He screamed in rage and ordered Iwei Li Sai to kill the intruders. But Iwei Li Sai was already restrained by elite knights, unable to move. Suddenly Shi Li Afania and Shala appeared alive, shocking everyone. Seeli mocked calmly, asking when she was ever supposed to be dead. Sigrun Afania froze in disbelief as her perfect plan collapsed. The truth then rewound back to the night of the assassination attempt. Seela's intuition had warned her to doubt the royal spy she hired. Shala agreed to double-check everything immediately, but by then, all palace spies had already turned traitor. Shella rushed back, sensing danger around the princess. Suddenly, dark energy wrapped around her as a voice entered her mind. It offered immortality power in exchange for using it temporarily. The voice belonged to Kayla CT, speaking directly into her head. Shocked, Shilla was engulfed by dark power. A red star-shaped eye mark appeared in her vision. She woke up still stunned by Kayla CT's order to fake her death. But at that moment, a chilling presence locked onto her from behind. Molly Dian now appeared with a death spear in hand. A brutal strike pierced Shala's body, but the immortality power from Kayla CT's fruit kept her alive. Seely suddenly returned with full authority, acting like she was ready to clean house. She ordered the Black Dragon Knight Vice Captain arrested for suspected espionage, instantly freezing the entire hall in tension. Segrin froze, completely shocked spy. Seely smirked coldly, mocking her like everything was already under control. She then calmly ordered Sira finish her. Sira instantly swung a massive blade straight down toward Segrin. A huge explosion erupted, but Molly Diana blocked it with her spear just in time. Segrin panicked, realizing her entire spy network had been wiped out without her noticing. Seela's gaze pierced through her, making Segrin realize her plan had already been exposed. Segrin snapped mentally, deciding Shi Li must die right here, right now. She pulled out a beating red heart Awei Li Si's heart and activated a blood curse on it. She ordered Awei Li Si to kill the fourth princess immediately. But Awei Li Si was already under control, screaming internally as her body resisted the curse. Segrin lost control while Awei Li Si's body went berserk, crying out for crust in desperation. Suddenly, dark purple energy ripped through space itself. It grabbed Segrin's arm holding the heart. A crushing force snapped her wrist and the heart was stolen in an instant. Segrin stared in disbelief, realizing she had lost everything at once. The assassination plan failed completely. The capture of the second prince also failed. Even Awei Li Si's heart was gone, everything collapsed. She snapped, refusing to accept defeat and deciding to kill Seeli herself. While everyone was distracted, she seized her only chance. She exploded forward at full speed like a lightning strike. "If I can't control it, I'll just kill you myself," she roared. A devastating thrust came crashing down. But Kilasai appeared at the last second and blocked it. Purple-black energy clashed violently with Segrin's attack, shaking the entire battlefield. Segrin was stunned, unable to believe her signature move was blocked so easily. Molly Diana also froze in shock as Kilasi held the spear back. Kilasi looked at Segrin and mocked her coldly, like he already knew every move she would make. Segrin panicked, realizing he understood her too well to be a stranger. The second prince quickly ordered the soldiers to arrest her. A hand suddenly snatched Segrin's weapon away. The accused royal assassin Ma Li Diana was finally restrained as she struggled and screamed in disbelief, her entire plan completely collapsing. Ma Li Diana finally exposed everything, but she still couldn't hide her rage, damn it. From a distance, Keela Si blamed himself for making unnecessary moves even after knowing the outcome. Meanwhile, Ai Li Si was dragged away screaming, calling for help in desperation. As the crowd dispersed, Shili rushed to Keela Si asking if he was okay. Keela Si forced himself to answer, saying he wasn't in great shape after blocking Sigrin's full-force attack. He realized he was still far from master level, especially against the god sect. Seely tried to reassure him with her royal protective artifact, impressing Keela Si. Amid the ongoing arrests, Keela Si signaled Ai Li Si to move. It was time to escape the chaos. A dark portal opened and swallowed both of them, leaving only a farewell to Shi Li behind. Seely tried to stop him and treat his wounds, but Keela Si refused and left calmly. She watched him disappear, silently vowing to follow him to the academy someday. Meanwhile, a carriage carrying Keela Si and Ai Li Si sped away. Keela Si reflected on the usefulness of teleportation despite its limits. Ai Li Si handed him the golden dragon herb, complaining but completing the deal, along with the promised heart. She was stunned to actually receive it. She never expected Keela Si would keep his word. She admitted he felt different from other corrupted beings despite his power. Keela Si realized this misunderstanding might become dangerous later. Suddenly, Crimson interrupted with a serious warning. It told Keela Si something bad had happened to his family. A vision showed Bianca lying in the snow, barely alive. Keela's frozen shock. Crimson reported that Butcher Dog had infiltrated the Hardin Has Mountains. And worse, Keela Si's fiancé had vanished without a trace. Rage and worry exploded inside him. He remembered his bad feeling when he met Butcher Dog's disciple. He ordered immediate travel to Hardin Has at full speed. Ai Li Si was shocked by the urgency, confused about his fiancé. Keela Si coldly denied being an invader and clarified his identity. His aura shifted complete. Purple energy engulfed him as his disguise began to fade. In a burst of power, he revealed his true identity, Keela Si Vanham, the youngest son of the Vanham family. Ai Li Si witnessed the young master's transformation and went completely silent. She stared in shock, dropping the heart in her hand as panic took over, realizing Van Hem meant Keela Si was from that family. Her scream echoed through the forest as the carriage kept speeding forward, but Keela Si snapped at her to shut up. No time for that now. Cut to the snowy mountains of Hardin Has, where a search camp was set up under a heavy, gloomy sky. Renika Hardin Has broke down in regret, blaming herself for Bianca's situation and the whole disaster. She explained Bianca had gone up the mountain to find a rare white flame fungus using only a guidebook. Flashback begins in the frozen Roken mountain range. Renika originally led a search team, trying to retrieve Bianca and the mushroom for her own reasons. But Bianca stayed firm, believing her husband is the best and refusing to be looked down on. She turned back at Renika with unwavering eyes in the falling snow. Renika argued bitterly with Bianca, but Bianca stubbornly refused to listen. Renika finally snapped, telling her to just take the fungus and return to Van Hem. Bianca silently endured it, knowing her sister blamed her for their mother's death. She still promised herself she would return once she got the white flame fungus. Back in the present, Renika clenched her fist in regret as everything spiraled out of control. Suddenly, a bloodred aura erupted and a masked man appeared with terrifying pressure. He casually asked if he could join them, like this was some kind of game. Blood spilled onto the snow as he greeted them calmly, terrifying the two sisters. A loyal guard tried to urge them to escape but was already injured. The masked killer grabbed the guard's head and mocked the situation, clearly enjoying the hunt. Bianca, injured but still moving, supported her sister and urged her to run. The killer calmly watched them struggle in the open snowy wasteland. He treated it like a perfect hunting game, slowly following them with a cruel smile. Bianca realized they were being played with and still clutched the mushroom tightly, refusing to give up. Renika yelled at her to stop talking about Keela Si, but Bianca stayed determined to fulfill her promise. Renika suddenly came up with a risky plan. She suggested using an ancient artifact to escape toward a glacier crack to slow the attacker. But the masked man had already seen through everything, mocking them from above. Renika collapsed at the edge of exhaustion near the cliff. She cried, begging to be left behind. Standing at the frozen abyss, Bianca calmly decided they would jump across because either way they were already dead. Just then, the assassin finally caught up, swinging a massive axe and flirting like a psycho. "Hey young ladies, it's dangerous there. Come over here with me." The moment he reached out, Bianca shouted this was it. She suddenly shoved Yannicka straight off the cliff in front of the stunned killer. He only managed to blurt out, What is this?" Watching both girls fall into the dark icy crack, the butcher reached out too late. Yannicka's scream echoed through the frozen void. He roared, "Are you trying to commit suicide or what?" The assassin looked down and smirked when he spotted them clinging to a ledge. "Oh, there's a foothold there?" Yannicka panicked. "We're exposed!" Realizing they were found, the butcher jumped down with a mad grin. "This is getting fun. Let me join you. Playing recklessly gets you killed fast." In this deadly moment, Bianca stayed strangely calm and looked at her sister. "It's okay, Yannicka." Before Yannicka could react, Bianca suddenly lunged out and grabbed the assassin to shield her sister. Yannicka stood on the cliff, screaming helplessly, "Bianca!" That was the last thing she saw before her sister vanished into the blizzard below. Luckily, the search team later said the snow at the landing zone was thick, so Bianca might still be alive. Back in the present, Yannicka collapsed in front of Keela Si, crying in regret. "If I hadn't suggested going there. If only I had brought the item from the mansion earlier, none of this would have happened." Keela Si's eyes sharpened. "So that's what happened." Yannicka kept sobbing. Don't say irresponsible things. It had already been a week since that day. She feared that even if Bianca survived the butcher, someone who only read books might not survive these brutal mountains. Meanwhile, deep in the snowy forest, Bianca lay curled up beside a dead tree, barely breathing. In her fading consciousness, she whispered the only name she trusted, Gala, see, save me, it's so cold. She woke up groggily and realized she had fallen asleep again. She survived days on seeds in the warmth of sunheat snow mushrooms, but she was reaching her limit. Checking her injured leg, Bianca thought, it's getting better. After falling off the icy cliff with the assassin, she had been wandering upward, trying to find higher ground and help. Luckily, she found a field of glowing sunheat snow mushrooms radiating warmth. These mushrooms naturally emit heat. Bianca decided to rely on them to survive the freezing cold. She used them to stay warm, found a small cave, and even used a survival book to treat wounds and ration food. But the cold, injuries, and starvation slowly drained her strength. She kept dozing off, fearing she wouldn't make it. The recent avalanche only made rescue slower, yet she still vowed no gift delivered, no exit. Suddenly, the assassin Bo Meng reappeared with a chilling presence. Finally, I found you. He licked his lips and declared coldly, let's end this chase here, little lady. Meanwhile, Bianca staggered through the snow, whispering, I need food. She suddenly froze, spotting something under the snow. Grain seeds? From a squirrel. Sorry, little guy, I'll borrow some. Suddenly, an axe slammed down right beside her. Bianca looked up in shock. Her breath caught as the enemy appeared out of nowhere. A violent explosion of snow erupted, blasting Bianca away as she tumbled across the frozen ground. She barely managed a terrified "huh!" Through the mist, Bo Meng stepped forward, mocking her for being so emotionless despite everything. His eyes turned vicious as he said, getting money from the Van Hem family is really not easy. Bo Meng grabbed Bianca by the neck and lifted her off the ground. If you had just behaved like a normal hostage, you could have gone home alive. His eyes landed on her snowflake hairpin. He casually calculated how much it would sell for while she struggled weakly. In her fading mind, Bianca suddenly thought of home again. The mansion, the quiet reading days, Crust sitting nearby, and the butler Ariad. Crust's warm smile flickered in her memory. She finally realized those days actually meant something to her. A single tear slid down her pale face. If I had feelings, I should have loved him sooner. Her last thoughts spiraled as she gasped. I want to see you, Crust. A shadow suddenly appeared behind Bo Meng like a ghost. Crust exploded in with a lightning-fast punch, sending the butcher flying. Bo Meng roared in pain. Who the hell are you? Crust ignored him and gently caught Bianca in his arms. He looked at her and said softly, you did well, Bianca. I'll handle the rest. Absolute main character energy. Bianca could only whisper his name in shock and relief. Crust smirked and ordered Crimson, take her and keep her safe. Crimson reminded him neither Bo Meng nor Abellis could directly fight without breaking invasion rules, and Abellis was basically panicking uselessly. Crust decided the safest move was getting Bianca out of the battlefield. But Crimson still looked uneasy. He warned Crust that Bo Meng was way stronger than expected. Are you really sure you can win this? Crust's eyes burned with determination. No matter how strong he is, I win. Bo Meng screamed in rage. Who are you to interfere? Crust coldly replied, give her back, or I end you right here. Bo Meng smirked. Oh, Van Hem family, I see who you are now. His red axe strikes came raining down on Crust nonstop. Crust was shocked by the sheer speed. Even his sixth sense could barely keep up. The pressure was insane. Bo Meng laughed that the bounty would double if he captured both Crust and Bianca. Crust gritted his teeth, realizing he was only mid-level in mastery. Still, his defense surprised even the butcher as he kept blocking blow after blow. Then a fatal opening appeared. The axe smashed his sword out of his hand. Bo Meng grinned. Game over. Weak boys always break first. Just as the axe, Crust vanished like a ghost. Huh. Bo Meng sniffed around madly, unable to locate him in the snow. Suddenly Crust reappeared behind him. He charged a close-range strike directly into the enemy's ribs. The hit sent Bo Meng staggering in pain. Crust thought calmly that even without a proper blade, he couldn't afford to lose tempo. His fire technique activated fully. Bo Meng widened his eyes. Don't get too hot-headed, kid. He unleashed an illusion-type skill, instantly freezing Crust in place. It felt like the space around him twisted and crushed his movement. Bo Meng slowly walked closer. You can't handle this. Rescue team or not, I'll send you off first. His axe swung down with brutal force. Crust realized even his senses were being distorted beyond control. This was a sound-based secret technique that disrupted aura and paralyzed the opponent's nervous system. If this had been the old Crust, he'd already be dead before understanding anything. But not anymore, has survived worse. Crust gritted his teeth. He pushed his aura to the absolute limit, forcing his sixth sense into full activation. Bo Meng smirked. How long can you keep this up, kid? Crust stayed calm, hiding his full strength and letting the enemy get overconfident. Search team is almost here. You should disappear now. But it was all psychological pressure, just a bluff. Bo Meng unleashed a storm of red phantom axe slashes. Crust struggled under the illusion pressure, movement slowing down. He managed to block using his enhanced senses, but his body was barely holding together. Iblis panicked, watching from afar. He's gonna die like this. She fought with herself, wanting to jump in but terrified of Bo Meng's master. Still, she clenched her teeth. She couldn't just watch her savior die. Just as she was about to move in, Crimson arrived instantly and stopped her. Don't interfere. You'll ruin the moment. He said Crust chose this fight himself and had to finish it on his own terms. And casually added, if he dies, I can always bring the corpse back. Crust was now completely exhausted, kneeling in the snow, blood dripping from his mouth. I've hit my limit, he thought, realizing even his sixth sense was collapsing. He had burned too much aura and could barely keep his eyes open. From here on, it was pure instinct. Suddenly, a fainting axe swing flashed past him. A trap! Boti Meng roared, "Eat this and go die already!" A devastating axe strike came crashing down toward Crust's head. In that instant of death, memories flooded back. I've always been weak, Crust thought bitterly. I'm not like those geniuses who dominate everything in one blow. That's why I hid my true edge until now. His eyes ignited crimson. Override limit fire true gate! Using Ignis flame energy, he forcibly converted all stored power into raw output, breaking his body's limits. But the cost was brutal, he could only maintain it for 3 seconds. Crust roared in pain, "I end this now!" Boti Meng froze. What, I can't track his speed anymore? He realized too late that dodging now meant survival was uncertain. Crust unleashed his ultimate technique, Phantom Flame Slash. A blazing strike tore through space, yet Crust clicked his tongue. Damn, slightly off. He finally realized the problem, the sound interference was distorting his timing. A brutal impact sent him flying backward. Blood spilled from his mouth as his sixth sense screamed warning. He had 1 second left before the butcher's claws would tear him apart. Crust roared in pure rage. "I'll send you straight to hell on your own terms," and unleashed a massive energy counterattack. In this life-or-death moment, his focus reached absolute peak condition. One eye burned bright blue with overwhelming power. His entire body was wrapped in a deep, glowing blue aura. A finishing strike was unleashed to end everything. A deafening impact echoed, the battle was over. But yeah, the price was brutal. He lost an arm and his body was covered in horrific injuries. The strong win with ease, but the weak only win by bleeding everything they have. Crimson rushed in and asked, "Satisfied now?" Crust gave a weak smile, breathing heavily. "Not done yet with those guys." But I'll rest for a bit and then collapsed onto the frozen ground. Crimson ordered, "We're leaving." A teleportation circle opened, pulling everyone back. The giant Evelys carefully carried Crust and Bianca into the portal, leaving the frozen mountains behind. Bianca recalled her past meeting with Crust at the mansion, wondering if showing emotions would have made the world feel less gray. Crust silently watched her, thinking, what hurts more, having emotions, or having none at all? He wondered if she suddenly regained emotions now, would it break her completely? Bianca looked up bitterly. "We're strangers now, even if I die, you wouldn't care." Crust gritted his teeth, knowing this distance came from decisions made by their families. He remembered the tragedy of Daggercant Hardenhands, who went insane and wiped out his own family before killing himself. Bianca was the only survivor, saved by her sister Janiska. After that, House Van Hem cancelled the engagement, and everything between them was cut off. Suddenly, a dark purple aura exploded from Crust. "I warned you. If you still want death, I won't stop you." His Black Gate skill activated, and a massive demonic mouth appeared, devouring the snowy entity controlling Bianca. The snow curse was erased instantly under Crust's magic. He destroyed it completely with arcane seals. He looked at her and asked quietly, "How do you feel now?" That was the first day Bianca broke free from the snow curse. "Life really is cruel," she whispered. But the return of her emotions also marked the beginning of something monstrous within fate. 3 years later, the war in Hardenhands still raged endlessly. Soldiers complained, exhausted and broke. They blamed outside interference from the Ifan Empire for dragging the war on. Secrets capable of shaking the empire had triggered the northern powers to intervene, leading to mass bloodshed and the fall of House Hardenhands. Rumors said a white beast eliminated the Imperial Envoy, one of the top 10 masters, before disappearing into the northern palace. On the battlefield, a massive explosion hit the supply zone, sending enemy soldiers into panic. Crust, now grown up with gray hair and strange markings, calmly observed the enemy's weakness. He moved like a ghost through the snow, and the enemy soldiers shouted in fear, "That's him! The demon unit is here!" Crust gritted his teeth. His body was hitting its limit. "Damn it, I pushed the curse power too far. Even a saint couldn't fix this now. If you mess around, you deal with the consequences." Standing before the massive fortress gate, Crust thought of Bianca. He slammed the door and shouted, "Wife, open up! Your husband's about to get wiped out!" Suddenly, an overwhelming blue aura exploded from inside. Sharp ice spikes burst from the ground without warning. They wiped out the entire pursuing squad in an instant. Crust glanced back at the frozen corpses pinned on ice pillars. A white-haired figure appeared in the ruins. "It's been a while," he whispered. But Crust froze. Bianca stood there, a sword pierced through her chest, blood soaking her white dress. "Lord Crust," she weakly called. Crust rushed forward in shock and caught her falling body. "Bianca!" He realized the attacker was the daughter of the old envoy. In her fading breath, Bianca repeated a question from the past, which is more painful, having emotions, or living without them. Memories flooded back. Janiska once held her and confessed she never truly hated her. "I don't hate you, I only hated myself." Back when she was emotionless, Bianca never understood those words. Even when House Hardenhands was destroyed, she felt nothing. Only after gaining emotions did she finally understand that her sister truly loved her. Bianca broke down crying, overwhelmed by regret. "If I had learned to feel sooner, maybe everything could been different. Even with Crust, maybe we could been together properly." Her consciousness faded, covered in blood and tears. A voice echoed through the darkness, "Bianca." Crust suddenly woke up in a hospital bed, bandaged head to toe after the butcher fight. A small hand gently touched his. Bianca sat beside him. "I've always been here, Lord Crust. You're finally awake." Crust looked around. "This is the Hardenhands estate," then immediately scolded her. "Going into the mountains alone, trying to be a hero. You want me to die from shock or what?" Bianca lowered her head and explained softly, "I just wanted to find Sunhate snow mushrooms for you." Crust fell silent at her sincerity, then pulled out a glowing snowflake-shaped mushroom from his bandaged hand. Bianca looked down. "I'm sorry I ruined everything." Crust smiled through his injuries. "Thanks to you, I can finally start making the medicine." Bianca. She admitted quietly, I still have no emotions. Even after everything I can't feel joy, anger, or sadness, and it's unbearable. I don't want to stay like this, it feels like my system is broken. Deep down, she just wanted to laugh and feel alongside him. But I also don't want you to lose your emotions because of me. Crust gently reassured her, don't overthink it. The curse effect is reduced for non-targets anyway. Bianca looked at him with pleading eyes. Please help me regain my emotions. A mysterious purple aura flared around Crust. He smiled confidently. Even if you didn't ask, I was going to do that anyway. The magic lock on the black hat skill flares up, revealing the second seal condition, become the most important person in Bianca's heart. Purple chains around her frozen heart start cracking under overwhelming force. Bianca is stunned, eyes wide, as Kilasitan says he planned this from the start. Kilasitan smiles gently at the small girl. Bianca can't hold it in and breaks down crying against him. Hot tears melt years of emotional ice, and she instantly feels like her whole world changes. Kilasitan quietly thinks this plan might at least give her a less gray future, flashes of a tragic possible future crossing his mind. Bianca keeps crying hard, finally releasing emotions she lost long ago. On the bed, she slowly calms down, but after wiping her tears, she slips right back into her usual cold expression, thanking him politely. Kilasitan watches and thinks her emotional switch is seriously delayed, when a knock suddenly breaks the silence. Jenica Hardenhouse's voice comes from outside, asking to enter, and Kilasitan immediately gets cautious. Jenica steps into the room. She freezes slightly seeing Bianca there, while Kilasitan notices Bianca's teary eyes and asks what happened. Jenica awkwardly says they should go eat, clearly acting nervous and avoiding eye contact. She adds that since Kilasitan can't move properly, food will be sent directly to the room later. Kilasitan narrows his eyes, sensing a private family matter, while Jenica keeps dodging his gaze. He recalls her previous apology behavior toward Bianca and suspects the same thing is coming again. Kilasitan calls out to Bianca. He tells her to ignore any forced apology, then holds her hand and promises they'll go home together someday. Bianca suddenly feels something strange rising in her chest. Petals seem to fall through the air as she touches her own face in disbelief. A rare bright smile appears as she realizes true happiness for the first time. Then she politely says goodbye and leaves for dinner. Kilasitan waves with a soft smile, telling her to stay safe on the way. The moment she leaves, Kilasitan's expression turns sharp as he calls Abellos over. He orders magical rat scouts to secretly follow and listen in on what they say with Bianca. Kilasitan clenches his fist and warns that anyone insulting Bianca will pay dearly. Crimson sneers at him, mocking his broken body while questioning his obsession with Bianca and his impossible ambitions. Kilasitan calmly brushes it off, saying this injury will be healed once the Saintess intervenes. In the Holy Kingdom of Freeman, one of the four great powers, a Saintess blessed with divine power can even bring the dead back to life. Crimson mocks him again, saying House Wanahem would never waste such resources on a useless cripple, but Kilasitan just smiles and says he'll simply replace the arm with a better one. Crimson finally realizes his real plan, suspecting his pulling Bianca into his scheme for a bigger purpose. Crust confirms that recruiting Abellos is part of this exact plan. As a necromancer controlling death, reattaching an arm is basically child's play for her. Abellos complains but confidently says it's easy. Crimson immediately realizes he's being played, calling time reversers two-faced monsters. Crust shrugs it off like losing an arm was just an accident. When asked whose arm he'll take, Crust casually drops it, the Sword Demon's arm. Just borrowing it? Crimson is shocked. He already knew the Sword Demon was his subordinate, a legendary Speedblade master. And more importantly, one of Crimson's most treasured and carefully trained followers. Crust taunts him, saying if he wants him stronger, he'll take care of him properly, triggering Crimson hard. Crust quietly notes he fully understands Crimson's attachment to his subordinates. He realizes Crimson's real weakness. He sees the world through his followers' eyes, unknowingly forming emotional links. He recalls Arthur's warning about the Saintess healing power being used for cruel interrogation and control. Even though the Sword Demon is dead, his sword essence remains and Crimson still remembers it perfectly. Crust argues that grafting that arm will recreate the Sword Demon's ultimate technique, a living legacy. Crimson clicks his tongue, mocking him like a walking insurance salesman. After thinking it through, Crimson asks for 2 days to prepare and calm down. Crust smiles in satisfaction and thanks Crimson Garden. Looking at his bandaged arm, Crust finally feels the situation is under control, but then he starts worrying about House Wanham's reaction. And also about Ariel, the butler, once his identity at Harden House is exposed. He tells himself it should be fine, but an uneasy feeling still grows. That bad feeling already plays out at Harden House's dinner table like a glitchy sixth sense. Mario Khan, the eldest son, slams the table and yells at Bianca to give up her fiancé position for Jenica. He sees Crust as a rising weapon for the family and wants to fully control him for their gain. Bianca stands firm, declaring she will protect her position as Crust's fiancé no matter what. Mario rages, insulting her as cursed and useless, destined to be discarded. Renika can't take anymore and tries to step in, but Mario coldly forces her to take the engagement instead for the sake of the family. Bianca looks at them and coldly thinks this house is completely rotten. She realizes she never belonged here anyway and swears she will stay by Crust's side no matter what. Mario roars her name in fury. Suddenly, a knock cuts through the tension as the door opens anyway. Crust walks in casually, apologizing for the intrusion, saying he accidentally heard everything, very accidentally indeed. Mario freezes, recognizing Crust on him, and tells him to rest since his arm is still injured. Crust smirks and brings up 2 rumors spreading around. One says he bravely saved his fiancée and killed a butcher despite losing an arm. The other says Hardened House is so incompetent they let an assassin slip in and nearly kill their own. Crust asks which rumor benefits the house more while the head is absent. Mario starts sweating, asking what Crust really wants. Crust gets straight to it, let Bianca choose freely whether to keep or cancel the engagement. Mario goes silent, clearly thinking hard. Crust adds he will never abandon Bianca and doesn't care about the curse rumor, while Bianca looks at him emotionally moved. Mario is stunned by their bond and finally sighs, basically giving up and agreeing. Crust then adds one more condition: treat his arm recovery as if a priest from Hardened House successfully healed him, saving them money. Mario suspects an angle but agrees anyway, telling him to report results later as Crust thanks him and leaves with Bianca. Watching them go, the room falls quiet. Janica remarks Bianca has changed a lot, and Mario even wonders if they should just marry them off already. Elsewhere, deep in the shadows of the Wonham estate, a powerful man reads a report on Crust. He silently mutters the name of the youngest son with a mysterious intent. 2 days later, in a wide courtyard at Hardened House, Crust trains despite still being heavily injured. He realizes combining sword mastery with sword demon techniques requires aura and cursed blood to merge into one point, while struggling with only one usable arm. Sweat drips as Crust admits his thinking is still too slow. The snow doll is still functioning perfectly, stabilizing his cursed blood surge. It also helps him identify fatal weaknesses in his fire-based technique. The Ignis flame burns cursed energy for explosive power, but the cost is devastating to the body. Crust collapses, realizing after using it his body becomes completely immobilized, like internal organs getting roasted alive. He stares at the sky, wishing he could control heat output better. Suddenly, a cold lunar-like energy flashes in his mind. In the flames, a shadowed figure begins to appear. A red-haired man wrapped in frost, with sharp eyes, emerges like a vision. Crust smiles darkly as black feathers fall around him, realizing his next target. The ancient divine technique of Moon Shadow Flame Emperor Aslan Igris. Determination burns in his eyes. Once his arm heals, he will take that curse for himself. Crust stands before a massive twisted ancient tree, asking if this is Abelas's home. Crimson confirmed. A bunny-eared maid in a servant outfit appears and respectfully welcomes him inside. Crust is surprised by the bunny ears, wondering about Abelas's strange aesthetic taste. He steps inside and realizes the space is identical to before, as if Abelas has merged multiple dimensions together. Abelas bursts out excitedly the moment Gruss arrives, saying everything for the grafting ritual is ready. Gruss locks eyes on a dried, blackened arm on the table and immediately asks if this is the sword demon's arm and whether they can start now. Abelas warns him it will be insanely painful, while Bunny Maid 0.8 casually holds a giant hammer like it's normal, making Crass wonder if he's about to get smashed instead of healed, but he insists he can handle pain. Abelas smirks and says once the operation starts, there's no turning back. She orders 0.8 to restrain Crass and prepare the arm for the ritual. Alright, let's begin, Abelas declares. A massive surge of red energy explodes outward. It engulfs Crass and the demon arm completely. The pain hits like a tidal wave and Crass bites down hard to keep from screaming, drenched in sweat. The fusion process continues under extreme tension, with Abelas focusing on the final step, connecting the nerves. Blue-white electric currents flood Crass' body as the nerves reconnect, shaking him violently. When it ends, Abelas breathes out in relief. Impressed he stayed conscious, while Crass, still sweating, impatiently tells them to untie him. Bunny Maid Nope quickly apologizes and removes the restraints. A dark, grotesque new arm now sits on Crass' body, thick with twisted muscle and eerie energy. A black-purple aura erupts instantly, shocking Abelas as the arm activates. She gasps in disgust and shock as the arm spasms violently, radiating overwhelming pressure. Crust focuses hard, knowing if he passes out now the arm could go berserk. He forcibly stabilizes his aura, slowly forcing the arm to adapt to his body. After intense struggle, the energy finally settles and Crash clenches his fist in satisfaction. Crimson arrives and asks if everything is done, and Crash confirms the arm now feels like his own. Crimson suggests testing the sword demon technique, but Abelas refuses to give them the training ground until Crimson mentions an ancient martial arts manuscript, instantly changing her attitude. She suddenly turns into a fangirl, eagerly offering full access to the training area. Crass is completely speechless at her personality flip, while 0.8 guides them. On the way, Crimson asks how much Crust actually knows about the sword demon's technique. Crust casually admits he only knows it's strong, irritating Crimson to the point of yelling at him for being clueless despite reincarnating. Crimson rants that someone like him has no right to demand the sword demon's arm with such ignorance. He explains that normal sword draw techniques simply accumulate and release aura, but the sword demon's method shatters aura into countless microparticles for maximum destructive output. Those particles compress until the sheath pressure peaks, creating an explosive draw strong enough to destroy the blade itself. Crimson asks if he understands after the long explanation. Crust bluntly says not really. He decides theory is useless and suggests just swinging it a few times to see what happens. Crimson encourages him, saying the arm still remembers every technique the sword demon has ever used. Crass focuses, eyes burning with determination, ready to prove everything depends on his will now. Crass vows to master the legendary sword demon technique through relentless training. Even if he has to swing his sword 10,000 times, even if his body breaks down, he's willing to pay any price for ultimate power. Days later, the training ground is constantly exploding with deep blue aura bursts. Crass trains nonstop, unleashing sword strikes. But 0.8 coldly comments she can still clearly see his sword path. That hits Crass hard, realizing he's still far from the invisible blade level. He understands the sword demon technique must be too fast for the human eye to follow. To reach that legend, his blade must become completely invisible to enemies, pure aura speed beyond physical motion. Crust decides to return to House Wanaham to train other skills and improve overall strength, thanking No. 8 for her help. No. 8 tells him to trust himself more. As a No. 8 unit, she is already considered a top-tier swordmaster. Still, the enemies ahead are far beyond swordmaster level, and Crust thanks her again as Abellis suddenly appears asking what's going on. Crust announces his returning to House Wanaham today, shocking Abellis, who worries about what will happen to her. She sadly admits the outside world is full of monsters beyond her level. Crust warns her about the 5 elders and the dangerous possibility of her being captured as a slave, then asks for a favor. He formally requests Abellis and No. 8 to monitor the Poison King and prevent him from approaching the estate. His name is Wang Ye, and their mission is to protect the clan leader Dagarkan. Abellis is shocked at being asked to face one of the 10 great experts, but still agrees to protect the clan leader if that's the scope. Crust smiles and thanks her, saying she can call on him anytime in the future. As he leaves, Abellis blushes slightly while watching him go. She thinks he doesn't even know what she might ask in return. No. 8 asks if she's really okay with this, and Abellis admits she might have followed Crust if things were different. But staying close to him would blur her sense of reality and remind her too much of past comrades. And traveling with him means facing extremely dangerous invaders. She decides this distance is the best choice for now. Still, she quietly vows to repay him fully if he ever ends up in danger. A white carriage rolls through the snow, carrying Crass back to the family estate. Ariel respectfully greets him, welcoming him home while noticing Bianca sleeping in his arms. Crass asks if anything happened while he was away. Ariel reports that the main family had asked about his whereabouts, but he covered it by saying Crass was with Lady Bianca. Since the main branch looks down on Crass as useless, they dismissed the situation and mocked everything related to him. Because of that arrogance, no suspicion arose, and the careless messenger was later fired. Crass praises Ariel for handling things well, but Ariel warns that the chief butler himself will soon come to evaluate Crass personally. This butler leads all servants of House Wanaham, and has authority to directly assess bloodline members and report to the family head. Crass stared at the ambassador-level head butler and instantly felt the situation getting annoying and complicated. To steal the power of Fire Emperor Aslan, he knew he had to rely on his family's influence. Time to act and prove his real value. Crass asked if there were any other issues left, still holding Bianca in his arms. Ariat reported a message from Dilling Danforian urging Crass to bring the materials immediately. Crass sighed at Dilling's excitement, thanked Ariat, but the butler still had one last report. Lady Sackcloth has arrived. She is currently resting in your room, sir. Suddenly, a burst of blue-purple energy erupted from the balcony. Sackcloth, the genius of the family, leapt down from above with overwhelming pressure, greatsword on her back. Her entrance alone shook the entire place. She smiled at Crass and said, "Long time no see, Crass." Crass froze instantly, cold sweat running down his face. His worst fear was confirmed: nothing is scarier than his sister. Sackcloth Wanaham, 4th daughter of the Wanaham family, smiled faintly while watching her brother return. Crass, still holding Bianca, awkwardly replied that he thought she would arrive later. Sackcloth squinted and teased him, wondering if he rushed back only because she wasn't here. Crass panicked and denied it, but her pressure suddenly exploded, freezing the air. Is that really true? Crass stiffened, heart racing. He wondered if Sackcloth had already crossed into Grandmaster level. Then just as quickly her aura vanished and she switched to a cheerful tone. She gently touched Bianca's cheek, saying she heard Crass fought to the brink of death for his fiancée. Then she teased him, saying she would steal her away, but still looked a little disappointed. Crass stayed on guard, watching her carefully. He explained he was just surprised she suddenly showed up at his house. That casual word made Sackcloth's smile disappear. "Your house?" she asked coldly. In the next second she stomped the ground. The floor shattered and shockwaves blasted out in front of Butler Arius. Sackcloth coldly declared this mansion originally belongs to the Wanaham family, meaning it is their shared home. She complained that she was treated so harshly just for coming back. Crass was sweating bullets, thinking she and their mother were the same, one wrong word and they'd flatten everything. He carefully asked if she was angry. Sackcloth suddenly switched back to a playful mood, saying she just felt hurt being kept in the dark about everything. She got straight to the point, saying she could never be fooled by him. "You've leveled up your power, haven't you?" Crass froze at her words. He suspected Sackcloth might have awakened some kind of mind's eye. Sackcloth calmly said she could sense a massive, filthy, overwhelming energy inside Crass. Seeing her terrifying perception, Crass finally understood why even beast-like enemies could beat her. He realized her ability wasn't a normal mind's eye, but something higher, star eye, a power that reads the world through the stars. Illusions meant nothing to her. So she's already seeing my true state, Crass thought, realizing the depth of her ability. He glanced at the dark purple-black flame in his hand, and asked Crimson how others would see it. Crimson calmly replied that most people would only see it as a cursed, ominous flame. Only a handful in the world could recognize the power of invasive entities or those directly connected to them. He added an example, explaining how Crass could recognize the marks appearing on his subordinates' necks. Crass nodded slowly, realizing that was indeed how things worked. Crimson continued analyzing Crass' power foundation. Unlike Crimson's true nature, Crass wasn't fully a vessel of corruption. He was blending that corruption into his own aura instead. Because of that, most people would assume he was suffering from some kind of cursed condition. Crass smirked slightly, realizing nothing had changed even after returning in time. Even with Grimm's reassurance, Kras stayed cautious while holding Bianca. He knew he had to act perfectly or his cover would be blown instantly, and his sister would drag him off the family registry. Charlotte suddenly leaned in close, her deep blue eyes scanning Kras. "You're carrying a lot of equipment, aren't you?" Kras calmly replied that he was just testing the limits of his abilities. Sackloth laughed, saying he was just as greedy as her, and honestly, he was more like their mother. Sackloth ordered him to leave Bianca in the room and follow her to the training ground. Her aura flared intensely, leaving no room for refusal. "I need to test your current level." Standing in the grand training field, Kras couldn't help but think that before his regression, he never had the chance to fight her at all. The gap in their levels was just too big. Sackloth took a stance, confident that her little brother had learned many new techniques. She warned him bluntly to go all out. Even forbidden techniques were fine. She would accept everything. Kras gripped his training sword tightly, eyes burning with determination. "Understood, sis." But both of them just stood there, neither making the first move. Sackloth thought, 3 minutes already. And this guy still hasn't drawn his sword. Not even his aura is leaking. She called out, "Why aren't you attacking? Don't make your sister wait." Then she stomped forward, launching herself in. Her blade was already right in front of him, but Kras still hadn't moved. Heat surged inside his body as corrupted energy boiled. His eyes lit up as he pushed himself beyond his limit. Kras finally drew his sword. "This 1 second I have to use it perfectly." Dark-tin sword energy erupted from his blade. Even Sackloth's expression changed. She was genuinely surprised. A heavy impact echoed as both swords collided head-on. Kras had gone all out from the very first strike. A second technique followed immediately. Blade released from its sheath mid-flow. A powerful aura of corrupted energy burst outward. Her wooden training sword couldn't handle it and cracked apart. Sackloth had no choice but to manifest aura into a blade, true Grandmaster-level swordsmanship. To counter his sister, Kras unleashed his Black Hood sword technique. The blade surged forward from his grip. It nearly connected cleanly with her, but in the end he was still a tier below her. Sackloth was shocked. Even though Kras hadn't fully broken through her defensive aura, his strike had actually reached her body. She stepped back, staring at her exhausted brother in disbelief. She hadn't expected that at all. Sackloth admitted inwardly that Kras was the first person ever able to sense and pierce her energy flow. Her protective aura was a divine blessing-level barrier, yet he still managed to break through it. Standing in the training field, Sackloth retracted her aura, realizing she had held back at the last second by using condensed sword energy instead of her true technique. But a chill ran down the spine of the Vanhem genius. She understood that if Kras' desperate strike had landed cleanly, she might have actually died, a possibility that should never exist against a grandmaster like her. After the fight, Sackloth went to find Butler Arius in the mansion grounds. She asked worriedly, "Arius, Kras' arm isn't seriously injured, is it?" Arius bowed respectfully and reassured her that it was nothing serious. Meanwhile, Kras had already collapsed in bed from exhaustion after the intense fight. Sackloth confirmed the rumor. "He's enrolling in Regression Academy, right?" Arius confirmed it without hesitation. She smiled faintly, clearly looking forward to it. 3 weeks, that should be enough. As his sister, Sackloth decided she would go to Regression Academy early and wait for her brother's performance. Darling couldn't help but be stunned by Kras' speed. He didn't expect someone could finish it this fast. The efficiency of a regressor is on another level. From Kras' shoulder, Grim the Crow spoke up and told him to find a training ground. "This elixir is best consumed in an open space." Hearing that, Kras asked Darling to borrow the training field. Darling agreed immediately, convinced it was the safest place for that kind of medicine. Kras didn't fully understand what he meant, but he prepared anyway. Kras stripped off his clothes and sat cross-legged in the center of the training field, thinking getting a divine medicine sounds nice. But why does Grim look like that? Something feels off. Kras finally asked, "What exactly am I drinking?" Grim blinked in surprise. "You didn't even check? It's called 9 Dragon Tear. A legendary elixir said to turn the user into a dragon after 9 agonizing roars. It destroys the body and aura first, forcing evolution through pure destruction." Grim smirked darkly, provoking him. "You're already used to pain anyway, right? Endure 9 cycles and you'll be reborn." Darling stood nearby sweating bullets, realizing how insane this so-called medicine was, while Kras quietly waited for the storm. Heat began to surge. Kras muttered that it felt like his body was burning from inside, but still manageable. Grim froze. "What do you mean manageable?" Kras calmly said it felt hot, but not unbearable. Maybe he was just used to pain by now. Grim was stunned. "What kind of life have you been living?" Kras smirked. "Main character treatment, I guess." Darling stood there questioning reality. Ignoring the chaos, Grim urged him to continue. "Focus and absorb it fully. The more concentrated you are, the faster it works." Kras closed his eyes, forcing his will into the process. Golden flames erupted around his bare body. Crimson Garden August, in spirit form behind the crow, observed quietly. "His focus is terrifying. Even someone who endured internal organ burning would struggle with this." He stared at Kras. Among all-time regressors he had seen, this one had the most insane willpower. Even if Kras collapsed, Crimson would force him back up because that was the price of their contract. Inside his mind, Kras felt a massive shift taking place. His aura pool, once just a small puddle, expanded into a vast ocean. Before this, he could only refine aura quality through secret techniques of the Qing Song sect. But aura capacity itself had limits. After drinking 9 Dragon Tear, Kras broke through from intermediate specialist to advanced specialist in an instant. He stood in confidence. So this is it, I'm finally on the same level as geniuses. Kras stepped out of the burning flames, his body glowing with deep blue-green energy. Crimson couldn't help but admire how absurdly durable he was. Kras had even used Ignis flames to purge all impurities from his body. Kras collapsed to one knee, breathing heavily, eyes still sharp as he looked at the black crow. If I'm not this reckless, how am I supposed to face stronger enemies including you? Crimson could only sigh in defeat at his arrogance. When Kras stood up and fixed his posture, he was surprised to see everyone still waiting for him. You guys still here? Darling explained. Bianca refused to leave his side, so they all stayed. Bianca blushed and softly said that as his fiancée, she should always stay with him. Peak Kling energy. Kras gently patted her head and told her to wait somewhere warm next time. Bianca smiled brightly, noticing he had grown taller and his clothes were starting to feel tighter from his rapid evolution. Seeing that lovey-dovey scene, Darling suddenly had a crazy idea. He wanted to propose to Sackcloth. Kras instantly released a dark killing intent. You trying to get deleted early, he thought. But Darling kept acting shameless, even trying to flirt and call Kras his partner, making Kras seriously consider sending this alchemist straight to the afterlife. Kras, you're enrolling in Regression Academy next year, right? Darling suddenly asked while Kras was recovering from the aura absorption. Kras calmly replied yes. Darling got excited and said he'd go ahead and enroll first, just to hear Kras call him senpai one day. Kras squinted at the alchemist, realizing Darling wasn't even the same class system as Sackcloth, and Regression Academy did even use normal year-based rankings. Kras calmly replied, yeah, I know. If you fail exams you can't move forward anyway. Darling froze, shocked that Kras had already studied the system this deeply. Darling grinned, thinking this was a golden chance to stay close to both Kras and Sackcloth. Kras, on the other hand, was confused. Wait, isn't she planning to travel the world to stop the erosion? Darling just winked and said it was his intuition telling him Sackcloth would enroll this year too. Then he suddenly hugged Kras from behind, speaking sweetly. So I'll wait for you at the academy next year, okay? I get lonely, hurry up and catch up to me. Kras frowned in annoyance at his overly enthusiastic friend, while Bianca quietly watched everything from behind.